Go away, said my mother-in-law, Catherine, in a very unfriendly way. When my husband got a job overseas, Catherine decided I couldn't stay in the house anymore, so my daughter and I had to leave. We didn't have anywhere else to go, so I went to the park, holding my 2-year-old daughter, feeling confused and lost about what to do next. Suddenly, police officers surrounded me. "Please come to the station," one of the officers said. It was raining heavily, and I was cold and shaking. I followed the officer to the police station. When I got there, someone unexpected was waiting for me. "My name's Emma, and I'm going to be 35 this year. I met my husband Bob at work, and after a year of dating, we got married. When we got married, I stopped working, and 2 years ago, our daughter Lily was born. Right now, I live with Bob, Lily, and my mother-in-law, Catherine. We used to rent a place, but after Catherine's husband passed away and she started having trouble with her knees, we decided to all live together and bought a new apartment. We thought about buying a house, but because Catherine's knees aren't so good, we figured it'd be better to live somewhere near public transportation. Buying an apartment was cheaper than a house back then, and it has an elevator, which makes things easier for us. Catherine also liked the idea of the apartment, so we put some money down and got a loan that will pay off over 35 years. Bob's job often involves traveling or moving to different places, but after we bought the house, we were told he wouldn't have to relocate anytime soon. However, he still travels a lot for work, about once a week to other states. Having a 2-year-old daughter, I feel really stressed when Bob goes away on these trips. At first, Catherine, my mother-in-law, was helpful, but now she doesn't pitch in with taking care of Lily at all. Instead, she makes more work for me. For example, she leaves dirty dishes lying around after eating, and she doesn't even bother to rinse cooking utensils, which makes them really hard to clean later. Even when I ask her to at least rinse them, she just says sorry and promises to do better next time, but she doesn't follow through. I noticed something strange recently. She rinses the dishes when Bob is around, but not when it's just me. At first, I thought it was okay since she sometimes rinsed them, but now I think she's doing it on purpose to make things difficult for me. It's not just about the dishes either. Sometimes she'll ask if I need anything from the store, and when I say no, she'll later say she actually did need something after I've already come back. This happens a lot. Considering Catherine's knee problems, I try my best to help her with moving around, but my willingness to assist has been decreasing over time. Catherine's behavior started not long after we all started living together, and it's been happening for years now. When I talked to a friend about it, she said, "That sounds like she's bullying you. Why don't you talk to Bob? I think he might help." But I worried that if I talked to Bob about it, Catherine, who doesn't have any other family, might end up in a care facility. So I thought it might be best for me to just put up with it. However, one day, something happened that made me reconsider. That day, I was planning to drop Lily off at my parents' house. They always enjoyed having Lily over and suggested I stay the night too. I wanted to, but I felt uneasy about leaving Catherine alone at home. So after a short chat with my parents, I decided to head back to the apartment where Catherine was waiting. When I got there, I realized I had left my keys at home, which left me feeling worried. But then I remembered that Catherine was home, so I decided to ring the intercom to get inside. I pressed the button and waited for her to answer, but there was no response. I wondered if she had gone out, so I waited outside for a while. But even after waiting for about 2 hours, Catherine didn't come back. It was getting dark, and I was getting worried. Just as it was getting dark, another resident returned, and I followed them inside when they unlocked the main entrance. I was sure Catherine was at home because she rarely went out at night. So I pressed the intercom button outside our apartment, but still there was no answer. I waited by the door for a while, and then I heard a faint sound from inside, which meant Catherine was there. I tried the intercom a few more times, but Catherine didn't come out. Feeling defeated, I decided to stay at a nearby motel for the night. I planned to go back home when Bob returned from his business trip. When I told Bob what happened with Catherine locking me out, he was understandably upset. But Catherine just brushed it off, saying she might not have heard me because of her age. I could tell she was smirking though. I was relieved to be back inside and grabbed my keys to pick up Lily from my parents' house. After talking to my parents about what happened, they offered me comfort and told me I could always come back to stay with them if things got too tough. Their words brought tears to my eyes, but I quickly wiped them away before heading home with Lily. For a while, things were okay with Catherine, But then, unexpectedly, Bob's transfer to another country became permanent. He asked me what I thought about it, but I couldn't give him an immediate answer. Considering the potential stress it could cause Lily, I decided it would be best for her and me to stay in the US. Soon after we decided I and Lily would stay in the US while Bob went to Europe, he had to leave. He was worried about us, but he was so busy with work that he didn't have much time to think about it. So it was just me, Lily, and Catherine at home. But as expected, things went downhill with Catherine once Bob left. On a stormy day, when it was unsafe to go outside, Catherine dropped a bombshell on me. She suggested that Lily and I should move out now that Bob was gone. "Excuse me, what do you mean?" I asked, shocked. "Just what I said. I think it would be better if you and Lily found somewhere else to live. I'll take care of things here. I just don't feel comfortable with strangers in the house. It would be best if you left right away," Catherine said. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've always tried to make living together with Catherine as good as possible. I've treated her like family even though we're not related. But to Catherine, it seemed like Lily and I didn't matter much at all. I was thinking about going back to my parents' house when Catherine suddenly said, "Why don't you just leave already?" Before I knew it, Lily and I were kicked out of our own home, just as we were, without even a chance to gather our things. No matter how hard I knocked on the door, Catherine wouldn't let us back in. I felt lost and confused. I carried Lily through the pouring rain to a nearby park. There was a shelter there that I hoped would keep us dry from the rain. Ideally, I would have gone to a motel or gone back to my parents' place. But I had left my wallet and phone inside the house. I felt helpless as I sat in the park, trying to figure out what to do next. I'm not sure how much time passed as the rain poured down. I was exhausted and cold, and I started to doze off. It was dark already, and even though it was summer, the cold was harsh, and I worried that Lily and I might get sick. As bad as things were, it seemed like the only option was to walk to my parents' house, even though it would take about 3 hours. As I was thinking about what to do next, I noticed 2 lights coming closer through the rain. They turned out to be police officers. I thought they might be able to help us, but before I could approach them, one of the officers called out to me, "Are you Emma? And is this little one Lily?" I was surprised they knew our names but replied, "Yes, that's us." Then the officer said, "Please come to the station with us." I wondered why they wanted us to go to the police station. If something was wrong, urged by the officer, Lily and I got into the patrol car. We were freezing from being out in the rain for so long, but the officers had brought big towels for us. "You might need these. We've got some spare clothes for you at the station," they said kindly. Curious about why they knew about us and why we were going to the police station, I asked, "How did you know where to find us?" They replied, "We'll explain everything once we're back at the station. For now, just try to relax." Exhausted, I soon fell asleep and woke up to find we had arrived at the police station. As I followed the officers into the police station, I was surprised to see Catherine and my uncle there. "Uncle, what are you doing here?" I asked. He explained, "Bob got in touch with me. He thought you might be having problems with his mom, and since he's overseas, he asked me to keep an eye on things for him." According to my uncle, Bob had talked to him about this before. He said Bob wanted him to keep an eye on things since he couldn't be there himself. My uncle had seen us in the rain earlier today. He had thought about taking us in himself, but he thought Catherine's behavior was too extreme, so he reported it to the police. That's how the officers knew where to find us. Catherine had also been asked to come to the police station. She sat on a sofa, glaring at me, seeming confused about why she was there. "Why do I have to be here? My knee hurts, you know." If Bob were here, none of this would be happening, Catherine argued. But the whole situation had come about because Bob had asked my uncle for help. In the discussions with the police, it seemed like there could be legal implications to the events. So I was advised to think about hiring a lawyer. An attorney? That seems like a big step. I just locked the door, nothing more, Catherine protested. But my uncle intervened, pointing out that what she did was serious. Throwing me and a little child out in heavy rain isn't something that can be easily forgiven. He also clarified that I was actually the rightful owner of the house. Catherine was surprised, insisting that Bob, as the head of the household, should be the owner. But she was mistaken. My uncle, who works in real estate, had helped us get a great deal on a condo, and Bob had suggested putting it under my name. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, But now I was grateful I followed Bob's advice. Following my uncle's guidance, I decided to hire a lawyer. The lawyer explained that it would be tough to evict Catherine, so the best option might be to place her in a care facility. I immediately called Bob to update him. He hadn't expected things to escalate like this and said he wanted to come back from Japan to sort it out properly. He also mentioned that he was considering putting Catherine in a facility, unaware of the current situation. Despite being at the police station, Catherine seemed unconcerned as she casually snacked on some crackers. Since I couldn't go back home with her, I decided to stay at my parents' place until Bob returned. He was due back in a week, giving me time to figure out our next steps. If Bob didn't support me, divorce seemed like the only option. I regretted not seeking advice sooner. A week later, Bob returned from Europe and was at the house with Catherine. So I moved back home from my parents' place. Bob had to go back to Europe soon, so we needed to talk about what to do next. I heard some things from Emma's uncle. Is all of that true? Bob asked Catherine. It's all lies. I haven't done anything. Emma's plotting something to evict me. Catherine stubbornly denied any wrongdoing and accused me of scheming against her. Bob, who I thought would support me, seemed to be considering Catherine's side. I see. So do you have any evidence to prove Emma's plotting something? Bob asked Catherine. Evidence? No, of course not, she replied. Then Bob turned to me, asking, Emma, do you have any evidence? I hesitated, admitting, to be honest, I've been so busy with work I haven't been able to keep an eye on things. I'm not sure who to believe. I handed Bob a voice recorder I had with me. What's this? He asked. It contained recordings of Catherine's hurtful words and actions, capturing moments when she not only kicked me out but also often insulted me. When Bob played it, he heard Catherine saying awful things like, "You're such a worthless wife. I wonder why he even married you." Catherine quickly tried to defend herself, claiming it was taken out of context and just a one-time thing. But as the recordings played on, it became clear that her verbal abuse was a pattern, not just a one-off incident. Bob's hand trembled with tension and anger as he listened to the recordings. Catherine looked guilty as the truth sank in. Mom, what is this about? Bob demanded an explanation, but Catherine stayed silent. If you won't answer, then I have to believe this is all true. And if it is, I need to protect Emma and Lily. You understand that, right? Bob's anger was evident, something I hadn't seen in all our years together. Catherine, seeing this side of Bob for the first time, looked frightened and couldn't say a word. After many discussions before Bob's return to Europe, I made it clear that I couldn't continue living with Catherine, especially with Lily around. Bob seemed to agree, leaning towards placing Catherine in a care facility. However, Catherine strongly opposed this, making the discussions complicated. Despite her objections, I decided to sell the house. So you can't stay here anymore. If you don't want to go to the facility, you'll need to find somewhere else to live, Bob told Catherine. She resisted the idea of selling the house, but it was necessary for our plans. Lily and I had decided to move to Europe. Bob regretted not being more present for his family and wanted to be there for us moving forward. Although I was unsure about living abroad, knowing Bob would be with us made me feel better. Plus, it would be good for Lily to experience life in Europe at her young age. Selling the condo, which still had a mortgage, was our only option. If we didn't sell it, Catherine would have to cover the mortgage, which she couldn't afford on her fixed income. Considering her future, it was important for someone to be there to assist her. Despite our efforts, Catherine refused to move into a facility, so we had to forcefully place her there. I'm sorry, but I have to head back to Europe. Could you take care of any procedures needed here? Bob asked before leaving. With help from others, I managed to finalize Catherine's admission into the facility. The staff at the facility kept me updated on Catherine's condition, but it seems she's struggling. It would be one thing if she was just feeling down, but she's been causing trouble for the staff and other residents. Before leaving for Europe, I visited her to check on her. But she lashed out at me, saying, "Why have you locked me up in this place?" She also complained to the staff about the food, the beds, and the other residents. When I apologized to the staff, they were understanding. "It's okay," one of them reassured me. "We're used to this kind of behavior. Just leave it to us. We'll keep you updated, and if anything happens, we'll let you know. So don't worry." Despite all the harassment I endured from Catherine when we lived together, I couldn't help but feel worried as I headed to Europe. Upon arriving in Paris, Bob met me at the airport and we went to the apartment we had rented. They say rents in Paris are higher than in Texas. But since Bob's company gives him a housing allowance, we were lucky to find a spacious and affordable place. The neighbors in our building are very friendly and have been kind to me, even though I don't speak French fluently. Just yesterday, a neighbor shared some wine and cheese with me. In return, I gave them some mac and cheese. I'm gradually learning French along with my daughter, Lily. I know there's a limit to self-study, so I've also enrolled in a language school. There are many Americans there, many of whom, like me, are new to France. I've made some friends and am really enjoying my life in Paris. Back in the States, I always had to worry about Catherine, which often prevented me from fully enjoying outings with friends. But here, I can indulge in leisurely lunches just the way I like. The only concern right now is Lily. She's still too young for kindergarten, as kids here usually start the year they turn 5. I hope she picks up enough French by then. Fortunately, Lily seems to be catching on pretty quickly. I'm thinking of getting a job once Lily starts preschool. Bob says he's okay with me staying at home, but living in Paris has made me want to explore more opportunities. Seeing how ambitious and confident people are here has ignited something within me. I've become friends with a waitress at a nearby cafe, and she hinted that there might be a job opportunity for me there. The cafe is popular not only among the American community, but also with many locals who are learning English. There might be challenges ahead, but since coming to France, Bob and I have been communicating much better. I feel more confident in expressing my feelings, and I believe that no matter what happens, we'll face it as a family. Right now, I feel happier than I've ever been in my life. Hello, my name is Macy. I'm 42 years old and have been married twice. My second marriage has been wonderful, but my first was a disaster. My first husband's name is Bobby, and we were high school sweethearts. I was a cheerleader and he was a jock. We had a lot of fun together, and he made me happy back then. He was my first boyfriend, so I did everything for him because I thought he was the one I'd be with forever. We planned to go to the same university so we could stay together, but in my second year, when I was 19, I got pregnant. My family was upset, and I wasn't thrilled either. My mom kept telling me that life with Bobby wouldn't be easy. My family never liked him but couldn't really explain why. They just had a bad feeling about him. As a teenager, I wanted to prove them wrong and rebel, so I ignored their concerns. Both our families agreed to support us until we graduated and got good jobs, and I'm still very thankful for that. Bobby and I got married at the courthouse and had our first child. At first, Bobby was a great father, and I felt like I was proving everyone wrong. Then 2 years later, I got pregnant again. By then, I had graduated from college, but I had to quit my job to take care of the kids. Bobby worked 2 jobs to support us. Life was hard. But at that time, I felt that as long as I had Bobby with me, I could handle anything. But a couple of months after our second child was born, Bobby started acting very differently. I tried to talk to him about it, but he wouldn't listen. One day, I took the kids out for a walk and came back to an empty apartment. All of Bobby's things were gone. I panicked, and seeing me panic made the kids cry. I tried calling him several times, but it went straight to voicemail. I remember rushing to my mother's house with the kids crying while I tried not to break down. When my mother opened the door, she looked worried and let us in. "What happened?" she asked. "I think Bobby left me," I said. "What? What do you mean?" I took the kids for a walk, and when we got back, all his stuff was gone. I can't reach him. "Oh no, do you know why he might have left?" "I don't know. He'd been acting very differently for a while. But he wouldn't talk to me. And then today, he just left." "Okay, calm down. We'll wait a while, and if he doesn't come back, we'll file for divorce. I'll help you out." But I loved him. How could he do this to his children? I know. I wish I could find him for you and ask him all these questions, but we have to move on. Not because he'll heal you, but because you have 2 kids to raise. My mom was right. I spent the next few months painfully getting over him while raising 2 kids who looked a lot like him. I cried myself to sleep many nights, but eventually, months turned into years, and I slowly got over the pain. My kids obviously asked questions about their father, and when they were old enough, I told them the truth. They were devastated but surprisingly understanding. As a family, we learned to live past the pain. My mom was a huge help and made raising 2 kids much easier than it would have been alone. 13 years after Bobby left, I met my current husband, Fred, at a bar during one of my friend's birthday parties. My mom was watching the kids, so I thought it was a good time to relax and have some fun with my friends. Most of the night, I stayed with my friends, chatting and laughing. Towards the end of the night, Fred approached me. My friends had been encouraging me to meet someone for years, but I was too traumatized by Bobby to try. So when Fred came up to me, my friends stepped back to watch as I talked to him. He started by asking if he could buy me a drink. I wasn't going to turn down a free drink, so I said yes. We waited until we got our drinks to start talking. "So what brings you here?" he asked. It's my friend's birthday, and I'm just here to celebrate with her," I replied. "That's nice. How about I send over some drinks for all of them?" he offered. "All of them? There are 7 more people there." "It's all right. I'll make up all the money I spent here the next 2 hours, so no worries." "So you're rich? Ha, I guess you could say that. Of course, I'm not trying to brag or anything. No, it's a great thing to flaunt. Not a lot of people get to do that, and you aren't being a jerk about it. You're buying a bunch of strangers drinks because I told you it was one of their birthdays. What can I say? I have a particular weakness for pretty women. You're so weak you believe everything they say, even lies." "Yes, of course. Although did you lie?" he asked with a playful smile. "No, it is one of their birthdays. But it is concerning that pretty women make you weak. You should get that checked," I joked. "How about you help me with it? Maybe if I had a pretty woman by my side, I'd only have a weakness for one woman," Fred replied with a playful smile. It was a confidence boost to be called pretty by Fred, especially because he was so handsome. He looked like he could be on the cover of Vogue. I surprised myself by flirting back with him. I was usually quite introverted, so I don't know if it was the drink or just Fred's charm, but I felt comfortable being flirty. Eventually, my friends came to get me, thanking Fred for the drinks. Before I left, Fred and I exchanged numbers. From then on, we talked all the time. We started with texts, then moved on to calls whenever we had free time or something interesting to share. We also started meeting up more often. At first, we met in public places, but as time passed, we began hanging out at each other's homes. I was shocked when I saw Fred's house for the first time. It was like a mansion. Fred laughed and told me to get used to his wealth because it would soon be mine. Fred was very open about wanting to marry me. He told me countless times how comfortable he felt around me, and that just made me love him more. He was also completely okay with me having kids. When I told him about Bobby, he was genuinely upset for me. After that, he went above and beyond to show me how much he cared about me. Fred and Bobby were like night and day, and being with Fred made me realize why so many people didn't want me to be with Bobby. I was glad I got out of that relationship, but I hated how it ended. Fred helped me heal and move on from it, which I was incredibly grateful for. We only dated for a year before getting married. We had a destination wedding and flew out our closest friends and family. My kids were thrilled for me and constantly told me how much they loved Fred, which was a huge relief for me. Life from then on was smooth sailing. Fred eased all my worries and even helped with my kids' education, despite me insisting I could handle it. He showed me that he accepted all of us, not just me. He decorated my kids' rooms exactly how they wanted them before we even moved in together. Fred did everything Bobby didn't and more. It was a true turning point for my family, and that's how we grew into what we are today. From then on, Fred and I had a child of our own, but he never treated my kids differently. About a year after our marriage, my kids asked him to legally adopt them, which was another big moment for our family. After that, we became one big family. We did all the things families do, going out to eat, going on vacations, having fun together, you name it. My career was going well, and Fred's company was thriving too. There wasn't a single thing wrong in my life. Before I knew it, 7 years had gone by. Then, one day, out of the blue, I got a call from an unknown number. "Hello," I answered. "Look who it is. It's Macy." "Who is this? Don't you recognize me?" I don't think you remember much anyway. It's Bobby here." "How are you doing?" the voice said. "Bobby? What the heck? How did you even get my number?" I asked, surprised. I forgot how whiny you are. I just happened to come across your number and thought I'd give you a call to see how you've been," Bobby replied. "How has life been treating you since?" he asked. "Since you left me? Oh, come on, Macy. We were having way too much trouble, and both you and I know that we would have gotten divorced anyway. So you just chose to leave without saying a word. Well, I wanted to avoid all the emotional drama, so I did what I had to do, Bobby said. You are unbelievable. A pretty rich piece of work. Do you even realize the harm you caused me? Leaving was the best thing that ever happened to me. Are you serious right now? Yes, I married a wealthy woman with kids, but I was willing to overlook it because of her money. And it paid off because she got me this amazing job that pays me so much. I'm living my dream. So you abandoned your own kids to take care of someone else's. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? Please never call me again. Goodbye. I was stunned by the sheer audacity of that man to call me just to brag about his new rich lifestyle. Part of me wanted to keep talking to him just to find out where he was, so I could give him a piece of my mind. But I was so overwhelmed with emotions that I could barely think straight. After I hung up on him, I felt hurt, not for myself, but for my kids. They grew up without a father who was too busy taking care of his new wife's children. We struggled, but what did he expect? We were just high school graduates when we had our first child. Where would we have gotten the money for ourselves? At the same time, I felt disgusted. He was the epitome of a sleazebag. He only cared about someone if they had something to offer him. I decided to block his number because I didn't want to deal with him anymore. That chapter of my life had been closed for long enough, and I never wanted it reopened. I told Fred about it later that night, and he was understandably upset but also glad that I blocked Bobby's number. We decided to move forward from that. About a week later, I received another call from an unknown number, and once again, it was Bobby. I was getting frustrated by his constant calls. He called to brag about his luxurious lifestyle, his new expensive car, and how well his kids were doing at school. I didn't bother being polite this time. I just hung up on him. But that didn't stop him. He kept calling every week after that, telling me about his extravagant purchases. I blocked him with every new number he used, but he kept finding ways to reach me. Eventually, I stopped answering his calls altogether because he was becoming a nuisance. It seemed like he enjoyed bothering me. One day, when I was stressed at work, Bobby called me again. "Oh, hey, Macy," he said. "Can't you just leave me alone?" I snapped. "Oh, come on. I'm just trying to make up for lost time," he replied casually. "Well, you're 20 years too late. The kids don't care about you, and neither do I. Leave me alone," I said firmly. "You know you love it, Macy," he replied. "I really don't. I don't want to hear anything about you or your new good life." "Why? Are you jealous? Are you jealous I'm living the life that you'll never be able to live?" he taunted. "I can assure you I'm not." "Well, here's something that will definitely make you jealous. I just got a promotion. I don't give a crap." "You know you're jealous. I just got a promotion at Digitum, one of the finest media companies." "I'm going to hang up," I said, ending the call. I was furious and annoyed after the call, but something Bobby said kept nagging at me. I was too angry to think about it at the moment, so I pushed it aside. When I got back home, I couldn't shake the feeling, and then it hit me. Bobby mentioned working for Digitum, one of the top media companies in our city, and it struck a chord because Fred is the CEO and founder of that company, my husband. I couldn't believe how perfectly the universe had aligned. This meant I finally had a way to teach Bobby a lesson, not just for bothering me, but also for abandoning his children. I waited eagerly for Fred to come home, bubbling with excitement to tell him about my day. "Did something happen? Why do you seem so hyper?" Fred asked when he saw me. "Nothing happened per se, but I did find out something big," I said, unable to contain myself. "Oh, what is it?" he asked, intrigued. Bobby called again. "That sick guy. If I could get my hands on him." Fred started, his anger evident. "That's the thing, he might be closer than we thought," I interrupted. "Huh? What do you mean?" "Well, today he called me to brag about his big promotion at work, and guess where he works?" I said, a grin spreading across my face. "You mean to tell me that he works at my company?" Fred exclaimed, disbelief evident in his voice. "Yeah." At first, I couldn't help but think his company name sounded really familiar, and then it hit me. I explained. "Did you really not remember the company I created?" Fred teased. "Listen, I was way too angry to remember my own name. Cut me some slack," I joked back. I'm kidding. Anyways, do you want me to fire him?" Fred asked. Absolutely. But before you do, I was wondering if there was any way to humiliate him, I said. Definitely. Bold of you to think that I wasn't going to fire him in the worst way possible for him, Fred chuckled. With that, we began planning our revenge. We decided to wait a few more weeks before executing our plan to fire him. We would record his calls to me and play them in front of everyone at a big company event in 2 months, which Bobby would be in charge of. There would be several big names present, and we would tarnish his reputation. Over the next few weeks, I answered Bobby's calls calmly, knowing I had the upper hand. I listened to him boast about his wealth and my lack of it, all while recording every conversation. These recordings would come back to haunt him, and I couldn't wait. At the end of the 2 months, the event arrived. Normally, I avoided big crowds, but this time, I wanted to see Bobby's downfall while I sat on the throne. Fred bought me a stunning expensive dress for the occasion. I stayed in the car until Fred called me, not wanting Bobby to see me and run. I entered when Fred introduced me during his speech. As I walked on stage, Bobby's face dropped. I smirked as I passed him, watching him sweat. Fred praised me and spoke about our wonderful years together, raising my kids. With every word of praise, Bobby seemed to sweat more. I beamed with pride as the crowd applauded me. Then Fred's speech took a surprising turn. He spoke about how I had been harassed by my ex-husband recently, detailing how he had abandoned me and our kids to start a new family with someone wealthy. But fate had a twist in store because my ex-husband worked for Fred's company. The crowd murmured in shock, speculating about who my ex could be. Fred quieted them down, promising to reveal the identity. He pointed at Bobby, declaring him to be my ex-husband. The crowd buzzed with disbelief. Bobby looked like he might faint, realizing there was no way out. Fred wasn't finished, he had proof. He played the recordings of Bobby's calls to me, exposing his behavior. Bobby froze as the truth unfolded. Fred announced that due to Bobby's actions, he was fired. The crowd cheered as Fred and I left the stage. Bobby was escorted out, and the event continued smoothly. Revenge was served, and it tasted sweeter than anything else. You're quite bold to call me again after last night. I answered the unknown caller. You tricked me, the voice on the other end exclaimed. What do you mean? I asked innocently. You absolute witch. Don't play dumb with me. How could you not tell me that you were married again, and to my boss no less? As I've told you before, Bobby, I simply didn't care about you, I replied calmly. I know that, but the least you could have done was inform me, he retorted. So you would only stop harassing me if you knew who my husband was? And if my husband wasn't your boss, you would have continued. I countered. Don't twist my words. Bobby protested. I'm not twisting anything. And if we're talking about decency, Bobby, let's talk about you abandoning your family. If you could do that, I can certainly do this. Enjoy your new life, and I hope you find a new job, I said firmly. I don't have a family anymore. My wife left me because of yesterday, and she took the kids. And it's all because of you. Bobby lamented. I didn't do anything. You did this to yourself. Goodbye, Bobby, and good luck, I replied, ending the call. It felt empowering to finally stand up to Bobby and know that I had caused him to lose everything. I hope he learns never to mess with me or my family again. Fred and I continue to thrive together, and our kids have grown into wonderful adults. My life is peaceful once again, and I no longer stress about Bobby's calls. I finally feel vindicated and free. Thank you for listening to my story. Hello, I'm Kayla, a 36-year-old woman. The past few months have been really tough for me, and I'm having to relearn a lot of things. My husband Tom caused a lot of the trouble I'm in, but a kind person stepped in and helped me avoid even more pain. First, let me tell you about the people in my story. The first person is my sister, Maya. She's 6 years younger than me and very pretty. Growing up, we didn't get along because I was a nerd and she was popular. She always picked on me and seemed jealous for some reason. My mom tried to help us get along, but it didn't really work. When I went to college, we didn't talk much. But after I graduated and she was a teenager, we started talking again. Our relationship got a little better, but we never got really close. That was the best we could do, and I was okay with that. Next, let me tell you about my ex-husband, Tom. We met at work and got along really well. We dated for about 3 years before getting married. We worked hard and bought our first house together. I earned more money, so the mortgage and deed were in my name. After 2 years of marriage, Tom asked me about having children. Honey, I was wondering about something, and I need you to think about this with an open mind. All right, what is it? I've been thinking that we've been together for a while now, and maybe we could start a family of our own. Tom, you know how I feel about that. I know, but we have the money for it, and it would be really cute to have little versions of us running around, don't you think? Yeah, but kids are a lot of work and responsibility. We're the most hardworking and responsible people we know. Come on, give it some thought, okay? I promise I'll help take care of them. Just keep that in mind, okay? Even though I wasn't keen on having kids, I gave in because Tom kept bringing it up. First, we had a son, and 3 years later, we had a daughter. Initially, Tom was very helpful, but that quickly changed. Suddenly, I was responsible for everything at home, including the kids. After our first child, Tom insisted I stop working because he had gotten a promotion and was earning more than me. I tried to resist, but eventually, I decided it wasn't worth the fight and accepted my new role. To avoid getting bored at home, I took up a new hobby, hosting dinners. I often invited my mom and sister, who lived nearby, and my mother-in-law, Megan, whenever she was in town. Eventually, I started to feel comfortable in my new life. I got to spend a lot of time with my family, and that made me happy. Tom and I were doing okay. I had gone through some trauma after giving birth to our second child, where I almost died, which affected our relationship. I didn't think anything else was wrong, but oh, how wrong I was. As I was cleaning my room, I found a pair of panties that definitely weren't mine. My heart sank as I stared at them, wondering if I wasn't enough for my husband. I had been feeling different lately, but I had just had our second child. It had been over a year since then, and I was still recovering. I had been going to therapy, making slow progress. But it didn't seem enough because Tom was cheating on me. Once the shock wore off, I was filled with anger and betrayal. I needed to know who my husband was cheating on me with and why. First, I sent Tom a picture of the underwear and asked him whose they were. Then, I checked his laptop. I logged into his social media accounts and went through his chats. At first, I didn't see any unknown women, which confused me more. I looked through his messages but found nothing. In my desperation, I went through every chat, even though I knew it was foolish because everyone in his contacts was someone. I couldn't believe that anyone in my life could hurt me that much. Then I realized that my sister's contact ID was everywhere I looked. At first, I didn't think much of it because why would my sister and husband talking be suspicious? But when I checked their chats, I felt sick to my stomach. They were full of pictures and videos of them in bed, messages about how much they love each other, and plans for Tom to leave me. I couldn't believe my own sister would do something so awful. Our relationship had never been perfect, but this was a whole new level of betrayal. First, I threw up because I was so disgusted. Then, I tried calling Tom, but he didn't answer. So I called my sister. Maya, hey, what's up? Don't hey, what's up me? Seriously, what's wrong with you? I don't know about mine, but I do know that I found a pair of your panties in my bedroom. Have you been sleeping with Tom? Yeah, for a while now. Why, Kayla? Seriously, you thought it was okay to sleep with my husband because you thought I was boring. And being my sister didn't even stop you. Look, I thought I was helping you out. I was keeping Tom busy so you could focus on the kids. Are you serious? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Look, we didn't mean for it to go this far, okay? I only did it because he kept hitting on me, and he's a nice guy, Kayla. But he was my husband. Why would you help tear our family apart? I just want what's best for Tom, okay? If I'm the best for him, then so be it. You're disgusting. I hung up, unable to believe her nerve. I just lay in bed and cried. I never thought my life would come to this. Eventually, my youngest woke up crying, so I tended to her. I felt empty as I went through the motions of the day. I couldn't let my kids know something was wrong. They didn't need that worry. I picked up my older child from school, made dinner, and when they asked where their dad was, I lied and said he was working late. At some point, my anger turned into worry. It was almost 11 o'clock at night, and Tom still wasn't home. I tried calling him multiple times, but he didn't answer. I even tried calling my sister to see if he was there, but she didn't pick up either. Exhausted from the day, I went to bed, hoping it was all just a bad dream. The next morning, I woke up feeling like something was wrong. I looked around and realized Tom's things were gone from the room. I checked the cupboards and drawers, and most of his stuff was gone from the house too. He had left while I was asleep, without saying a word. I couldn't believe it. He just left me without even trying to talk. I didn't know what to do. All I could think about was taking care of my kids first. Then, I'd figure out everything else. I woke up, got the kids ready, dropped off the oldest at school, and then took the youngest to my mom's place. She could tell something was off because I was distant. All I could think about was how I'd managed to raise 2 kids alone. Whenever I came back to reality, I remember I had to tell my mom about my sister and husband. Eventually, she couldn't wait any longer and asked what was wrong. Okay, I've had enough of your silence. What's going on? I don't know how to say this. Why don't you start from the beginning? Well, I found out that Tom has been cheating on me. What? How do you know? I found another woman's underwear in our room. When I asked Tom about it, he didn't answer and then left. He left? What do you mean? When I woke up this morning, all his things were gone. Gone? You didn't try to stop him? I didn't even realize when he came back. I fell asleep around midnight, and when I woke up, all his stuff was gone. Oh my God, my poor girl, I'm so sorry this happened. Yeah, it gets worse. Oh no, what happened? Do you know who Tom cheated on you with? You mean you know who he cheated with? Yeah, I snooped through his things to find out. I wouldn't have tolerated this under normal circumstances, but this is different. So, who is it? Maya. Excuse me? What? Are you serious? Yeah, my husband has been cheating on me with my own sister. I called her to ask about it, and she was so casual about it. She said they were in love, and she believed she was the best for him. So she was going to keep being with him. Oh my God, what has Maya done? I don't even know how I'm going to survive. I have 2 kids to raise and I need to find a job too. Look, why don't you just get some rest while I try to process this? I'll be here to help you, okay? Yeah, okay, thanks, Mom. I had become numb to everything that had happened, so telling my mom wasn't as hard as I thought. I ended up sleeping while my mom took care of my youngest. When I woke up, I heard my baby crying and my mom yelling. I rushed out and saw my mom on the phone looking angry. She hung up and seemed surprised to see me. She apologized for the noise but didn't say more. I knew she had been giving Maya a piece of her mind. Over the next few days, Mom stayed with us. It was easier having one person move and then 3. Maya kept trying to contact our mom, but she asked me to block Maya. It was comforting to have someone understand my feelings when I felt so alone. I found out through mutual friends that Tom and Maya got married. They reached out to me, concerned and confused. I had to explain everything, which was humiliating, but they were supportive. They all blocked Tom and Maya and refused to associate with them. But I found out they got married the day after Tom left us. It hurt to know, but I shouldn't have expected anything different from them. When I told my mom, she was furious. You should know, my mom is usually calm, so seeing her so angry with my sister was surprising. It was great to have her financial support. She wasn't obligated to help, but she did her best for us. She even helped me get job interviews because I wanted to contribute now that Tom wasn't there to stop me. Taking care of the kids was manageable, but when they asked about Tom, I had to hold back tears. Still, we got through it. A week later, I got a letter from Tom. I didn't want anything to do with it. I figured it was some apology, but I was done with him. A week was too long to try to fix things, especially after he ran away from his family. So I did the next best thing I could think of. I burned the letter. But afterward, I couldn't help but be curious about what it said. Sometimes I wished I had read it before burning it, but then I reminded myself that nothing he could have said would change how I felt about him and what he did. The next day, my mom and I took the kids to the fair. We had a blast, and it was nice to be in a lively place after everything. I finally got to have fun and laugh, which felt great after such a tough time. That night, my mom and I relaxed with a bottle of wine, and I told her about the letter. So something came in the mail for me last night. Oh, what was it? It was a letter from Tom. What? What did it say? I don't know. What do you mean? You opened it, right? No, I didn't want to deal with anything he had to say, so I burned it. You burned it? Kayla, what if they were official divorce papers? The envelope didn't look legal at all. I'm sure it wasn't that. Well, if you're sure. What do you think was in it? I don't know. Maybe a weak apology or a request for his stuff back. I wouldn't be surprised. But how are you feeling about all of this now? Well, today was a good day. It's tough, especially when the kids keep asking where their dad is. What do I even tell them? It's slowly getting better, but only a little. As long as it's improving. I'm always here for you, and just so you know, I'm planning to cut ties with your sister. Everything I have will go to you and the kids. Oh, Mom, that means a lot, but are you sure? Maya is still your daughter. I know you and Maya had your differences, but what she did is unforgivable. I raised both of you better than this, and Maya clearly didn't care. So she's no longer my daughter. I would have been upset if Mom changed her mind easily, but I knew Maya was still her child. I couldn't imagine how hard it must have been for Mom to make that decision, because I could never do that to my kids. It made me even more grateful to have someone so supportive. Another 3 days passed, and I heard a knock on the door. It was strange because I wasn't expecting anyone, and besides my mom, who was at work, no one ever visited. I opened the door cautiously and saw 2 men in black suits. I only opened the door a little and asked who they were. They said they were lawyers and had something for me. They handed me a note and then a check. It was made out to me, and it was for $750,000. My jaw dropped when I saw the amount. I tried to tell them there must be a mistake, but they said there wasn't and urged me to read the note. The note began with, "Thank you for saving me." As I read on, I realized the money was from my mother-in-law, Megan. She explained that she had visited us 3 days ago, but no one was home. She called Tom, who tried to make it seem like he couldn't get in, but I had changed the locks after he left. Megan sensed something was wrong with Tom's behavior and pressed him until he confessed everything. She was disgusted by his actions. Megan felt sorry for what I had gone through and decided to leave all her inheritance to me and her grandkids. She thanked me for preventing her from making a mistake and for not trusting her son with her assets. That's what the check was for. The lawyers then told me that Megan had been terminally ill and had passed away just the day before. She wanted me to have the money right after her death to ensure her daughter-in-law and grandkids were well taken care of. Tears filled my eyes at Megan's kindness and loss. She was truly remarkable, always standing up for what was right. It was one of the reasons Tom had always been afraid of her. Yet I found her comforting. She stayed true to her word and supported me until her last breath. A few days later, Tom called. I already knew what he was going to say, but I decided to hear him out. "What did you do?" "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean, Tom. You'll have to be more specific. What are you talking about?" "Why weren't you home that day? I specifically asked you to be. I sent you a letter asking you to pretend everything was normal while my mom visited." "Oh, is that what the letter said?" "You didn't read it." "No, I burned it." "You betrayed me. My mother was going to help me with the inheritance, but you took it all because you're selfish." "That's ironic coming from you. You abandoned your family and only cared about contacting me when it involved your inheritance. Love can't be forced. I did what was best for me, and your mother did what was best for us. Don't ever try to contact me or the kids again. Goodbye." After that, things moved quickly. I filed for divorce, and I was granted full custody of the kids. Tom tried to fight for the inheritance, but Megan had made it clear that I was the one to receive it, so he didn't succeed. Tom and Maya tried to pressure me into giving them some of the money, but I stood my ground and refused. Life has become easier since we got the money. I put a portion aside for my kids' college and invested the rest. My mom could retire, and I started working. My kids have come to terms with their dad not coming back, and when they're older, I'll tell them everything. I'm still hurting, but I know things can only get better from here.
Didn't I mention I was going golfing with my boss today? Geez, don't bother me for things like that, I exclaimed frantically when I called my husband. The response I received was cold and distant. Just moments before, I had received news of our daughter's involvement in a car accident. She was reportedly taken to the hospital, and despite the urgency of the situation, my husband, who was out golfing, showed no signs of concern. "What are you talking about? She's your daughter too," I exclaimed, but his demeanor remained unchanged. "I don't care. Golfing with my boss is more important than she is," he replied. "My name is Catherine, a 42-year-old homemaker living with my husband, Bob, and our daughter. Bob, 3 years my senior, works for a major company downtown. We met at a party thrown by a mutual friend, and his dedication to his job as a business person attracted me. When Bob asked me out, I was over the moon. and his proposal day felt like floating on cloud nine. After getting married, I quit my job to focus on household chores, enjoying our newly life. A year later, we were blessed with a daughter named Emily. Raising her wasn't easy, but my mother-in-law, who had lost her husband and lived alone, was always there to help, a blessing indeed. Emily is now in her sophomore year of high school, studying hard, active in school activities, and enjoying her teenage life with friends. However, a noticeable change occurred in our harmonious family life about 6 months ago. It started after a long weekend when Bob planned a trip with his colleagues. Emily and I spent the holiday just the two of us. On the last day of the holidays, Bob returned and we had dinner together as a family for the first time in a few days. During dinner, Emily nervously approached the topic of her plans after high school. She had consulted with me while Bob was away and had already decided to go to college, which I supported. However, contrary to expectations, Bob grimaced and replied dismissively, "Why should I care? Do whatever you want." Taken aback by his cold response, I unintentionally let out a gasp. Bob immediately left the table without clearing his plate, stomping off to his room as if in a bad mood. Left behind, Emily and I were puzzled by Bob's unusually distant behavior. "I wonder what got into Dad. Did I say something wrong?" Emily asked. "He's probably just tired from the trip. We'll discuss your plans another time." I tried to console her. Although Emily seemed uneasy, she accepted my explanation. However, the following day, Bob's cold attitude persisted. From that point onward, he blatantly ignored Emily, refusing to engage in any conversation with her and consistently acting indifferent. Moreover, he started spending more time away on weekends, causing a significant decrease in the time we spent together as a family. Discussing Emily's future became an impossible task given the strained atmosphere. Feeling consistently ignored and without understanding why, Emily began to resent her father. Even my attempts to mediate proved futile, and their relationship worsened. Concerned about the situation, I consulted with my mother-in-law, who had a good relationship with Bob. She even tried to scold him, but it only made Bob angrier, leading him to snap and retort with a dismissive, "Mind your own business." To make matters worse, he blamed me for discussing the issue with my mother-in-law. On the night she came over after Emily locked herself in her room, Bob yelled at me, accusing, "Why did you talk to my mom?" "Don't meddle. It's because you've been cold to Emily, isn't it? Why are you ignoring her now? You used to dote on her so much." When I mustered the courage to ask why, Bob just glared at me with annoyance and didn't provide an answer. No matter how hard I tried to mediate between the two of them, Bob's attitude remained unchanged. Time went by without knowing the reason for his sudden change, but considering the shift in behavior after his return from the long weekend trip, it's reasonable to assume that something happened during that time. Perhaps someone filled his head with nonsense. Unable to figure it out on my own, I decided to talk to my mother-in-law and investigate the reason for Bob's change. Then, one Sunday, both Bob and Emily were out since the morning. As I carried on with my usual housework at home, I received a call on the landline just before noon. It was an unknown number, and with suspicion, I picked up. To my surprise, the caller claimed to be from the police. "Are you related to Emily?" the officer asked. "Yes, I'm her mother." "Oh my God, did something happen to her?" I inquired with a sinking feeling. The officer's response was unexpected. "Actually, the bus Emily was on got into a traffic accident," he explained, leaving me momentarily speechless. I felt a wave of dizziness, and my hands, holding the phone, started to shake. Emily had informed me she was going to the mall with friends, and apparently she was on the bus at the time of the accident. According to the officer, a car from the opposite lane crashed into the bus, and Emily and her friend were taken to a city hospital. After hearing the details of the accident and hanging up, I was in shock and couldn't move for a while. However, I knew I had to inform Bob quickly. I rushed to call him on my cell, and after more than 20 seconds of ringing, Bob answered, grumbling, "What is it?" Ignoring his tone, I frantically conveyed what had happened to Emily. Bob, this is serious. I just got a call from the police. The bus Emily was on got into an accident, and she's apparently been taken to the hospital, I explained, tears streaming down my face. But ignoring my panic, Bob coldly responded, "So what? What do you want me to do about it?" Seeing no signs of him being disturbed and feeling as if he couldn't care less, I got even more frustrated. "What are you saying?" "Please head to the hospital now." "I'm going to." Before I could tell him the name of the hospital, Bob cut me off, saying, Didn't I tell you I have a golf outing with my boss today? I'm staying overnight and coming back tomorrow morning. Can't help it." True, he had mentioned a golf outing a few days ago, but I was shocked by Bob's lack of concern about our daughter's accident. "How can you even say that, Bob?" "Emily is your daughter," I pleaded. Bob replied, "I don't care. Golf with my boss is more important than her. You go to the hospital on your own," before hanging up abruptly. I tried calling back immediately, but it seemed he turned off his phone. I sent a text, but given his attitude, I doubted he would reply. Even though they had been distant, Emily is his flesh and blood. How could he be so heartless? This incident completely shattered my trust in Bob, and I was certain I couldn't continue living with him. I decided on divorce, but heading to the hospital was my top priority. So, I hurriedly left home. As he had declared, Bob didn't come home that day, staying at a hotel alone because the golf course was too far away. He even took the next day off work. When Bob came home the next morning, he was surprisingly cheerful. It was hard to believe for a father whose daughter had an accident the previous day. "Hey, what happened to Emily? Is she hospitalized?" Though Bob asked about Emily's condition, his casual tone made it clear he wasn't genuinely concerned. I sat in the living room, and when Bob noticed my downcast expression, he asked about Emily. Looking up at the sky, I replied, "She's there." For some reason, Bob seemed pleased, saying, "I see. Well, that's a relief. Once Emily's funeral is over, we can get divorced right away." With that, he pulled out a piece of paper, an invoice from a lawyer specializing in divorce procedures, and thrust it in front of me. It served as both a contract for lawyer consultation and already had his signature on it. Though Bob appeared quite prepared, having already decided to divorce him, it might have saved me some hassle. "All right, I got it." I quietly agreed to the divorce. Bob didn't discuss the reason for the divorce. He just walked away to his room without saying anything else, as if he was done with me. The Bob who once cherished Emily and valued our family was gone. It was a harsh realization, but I didn't feel sad, only an increasing resentment towards him. I then called my mother-in-law and informed her about Bob's return and the lawyer's contact. Within an hour, my mother-in-law arrived at our house, and Bob returned to the living room. As soon as my mother-in-law saw Bob, she approached him with tears in her eyes, questioning, "Bob, what were you doing when your family needed you the most? I never thought you'd be this cold-hearted." Even when scolded by his mother, Bob showed no remorse, stating, "I had prior commitments. What can I do?" And it was all her making a big fuss. Looking at me with a mocking attitude, he continued, "I've been dying to get divorced. With Emily gone, I feel so relieved. Now I can leave without any regrets." Unable to tolerate it any longer, I shouted, thrusting a few pictures at Bob. The pictures depicted a man and a woman intimately together. The moment he saw them, Bob's face turned pale. The man in the pictures was unmistakably Bob. Stammering, he asked, "Where did you get these pictures?" I calmly replied, "They were taken yesterday afternoon. Weren't you supposed to be at a business golf outing? Instead, you were with a young woman. What were you up to?" Confronted, Bob averted his eyes with a frustrated look and began making excuses like, "She's just a colleague from work. We just went golfing together." I sighed in disbelief, remarking, "Golfing in such fancy clothes? I don't think so." "I already know you're cheating, so save your breath." The word cheating made Bob's face stiffen. His inability to deny it immediately was telling. But this wasn't the first time I learned of Bob's affair. Recently, he often left the house without telling me where he was going. After discussing with my mother-in-law and obtaining financial help, I had hired a private investigator. The investigation revealed that whenever he went out, he met the woman in the photos exposing his affair. His so-called business golf was a complete lie, and he probably stayed at a hotel with his lover. I had more evidence of his affair. I even have a video of you and that woman coming out of a hotel. Don't think you can get out of it, I declared. When I said that, Bob looked pleadingly at his mother, but she already knew of his infidelity and firmly shook her head in disapproval. To cheat and not even visit Emily in the hospital, and then to selfishly rejoice, thinking she's dead. I don't know how you'll face your father, my mother-in-law said with a mix of anger and sorrow. Bob froze in shock, his mouth agape. Wait, Isn't Emily dead? He stammered. I explained to a bewildered Bob, don't jinx it. You misunderstood. She's very much alive. The injuries from the accident were just minor scratches. Emily was taken to the hospital yesterday, but she was fine and had no major injuries. The accident wasn't severe, so she came home the same day. Bob misunderstood my comment, looking up to the sky. She's there, and assumed Emily had passed away. Emily is on her school trip as planned. She'll be landing soon, I continued. A school trip. Bob was taken aback, his eyes wide. Bob, who didn't care about his daughter, had completely forgotten about Emily's school trip. The trip started today and was for 3 nights and 4 days. Emily had gone shopping for it yesterday, and the doctor had said that there wouldn't be any issues with Emily going on the school trip, so she left as scheduled this morning. When I told Bob that Emily was up in the sky, probably boarding the plane, I used those words to indirectly blame him for not worrying about our daughter. Oh, that's what happened. Well, I'm glad Emmeline is okay. I hope she enjoys her trip, Bob said nonchalantly. How can you say that now? You knew how much she'd been looking forward to this trip since sophomore year. But I guess you'd be just as happy if she had an accident. You probably forgot all about it. I sternly rebuked Bob, who tried to feign laughter. I didn't have a shred of affection left for him. No matter what he says in the future, I'm never going to trust Bob again. Just then, an email notification popped up on Bob's smartphone. After reading the message, Bob's body began to tremble with anger. Shoving the screen in my face, he shouted, "Hey, what the hell is this?" I looked at the screen with my mother-in-law, and it was from Emily with a concise message. I can't consider someone who prioritizes his affair over his family as my father. I'm cutting ties with you. It was as if she was sending a message to a stranger. It seemed that Emily learned yesterday about Bob's lie about playing golf when he was actually meeting his mistress. She probably sent the email after landing. Being bluntly disowned by his 17-year-old daughter, Bob's face, which was pale just moments ago, turned a deep shade of red from shame and anger. He glared at me and began yelling, "This is all your fault. Weren't you the one who cheated first?" I was completely lost. "What are you talking about? When did I ever cheat?" I protested. "Jessica told me," Bob said. "Jessica? Who's that?" Then it hit me. The detective agency found out that Bob's mistress was named Jessica Accord. According to Bob, Jessica had filled his head with baseless lies about me when they first started their affair. She told him that I had cheated on him and that Emily was fathered by someone else. The detective agency confirmed that he began his affair 6 months ago, right when the relationship between Bob and Emily started to sour. Since Jessica works at the same company as Bob, they likely started their affair during the long weekend. Jessica had been spreading outrageous lies, saying I had cheated and had Bob raise Emily, a child fathered by another man. But Emily doesn't look or act anything like me. It's natural for me to have doubts. Both my mother-in-law and I were rendered speechless at Bob's outburst. Thinking Emily wasn't his because of Jessica's lie, he began to resent her and treated her coldly. But he didn't want to divorce because he didn't want to pay child support. However, mistaking Emily's accident for her death yesterday, he was relieved, thinking he could divorce without any complications. You've got to be kidding me! So you believed a lie your mistress cooked up over your own family? I shouted angrily. Bob responded with a dismissive laugh. I don't care whether it's true or not. I'm going to divorce you and be with Jessica. Before I could retort, my mother-in-law stepped in with a stoic face. She sighed deeply as she locked eyes with Bob. I realized she was livid. I wonder where I went wrong raising you. I'm so ashamed. Did you forget that Emily looked just like you when she was a baby? She's definitely your child, she said. I told you, I don't care about that anymore, Bob retorted defiantly. Right then, someone knocked at the front door. I went to answer and brought the guest to the living room. Bob looked puzzled. The visitor was a man in a suit around our age. Bob rudely asked, Who the hell are you? Are you her lover or something? Unfazed, the man handed Bob his business card with a smile. Bob accepted the business card with disbelief. But the next moment, his eyes widened in surprise as he read, Lawyer. Yes, he was the lawyer I had hired with the help of my mother-in-law. I had consulted him about Bob around the same time I had the detective agency investigate. I had asked him to come over yesterday, anticipating that Bob would do something rash given the situation with Emily. I suspected it had to do with Emily, and I had a feeling Bob might have done something unthinkable. I instructed Bob, Call your mistress over right now. Bob started panicking and asked, Why would Jessica be involved at this point? The lawyer chimed in, It's quite unreasonable to say she's not involved. Call her now. Bob had no comeback to that, realizing he had no way out. Reluctantly, he contacted his mistress. About 30 minutes later, a young woman arrived at the house. Jessica, in her 20s, probably took a personal day off from work just like Bob. She approached us with a disgruntled look, saying, What's this all about? I've got nothing to do with your family issues. Despite Jessica's refusal, I informed her that I was divorcing Bob and that even if she stayed with him, he'd have to pay child support to Emily, who was about to go to college. I have nothing to do with this, she insisted. However, the lawyer promptly responded, We have plenty of evidence of the affair. Plus, you fed Bob some nasty lies which resulted in irreparable damage to Catherine and her family. That's defamation, and we could sue you for it. By the time the lawyer finished explaining, both Bob and Jessica had turned pale. Realizing they were out of options, not wanting a court battle, Bob agreed to pay child support properly. We went through a divorce, and later on, I heard that Bob's company found out he had been using his boss as a cover for his affairs. The whole company was appalled by the way he handled the situation, especially when they found out he pretended to be happy about his daughter's fake death. Exposing his true nature led him to resign from his position. Finding a new job proved difficult as word of Bob's misconduct spread within the industry. Although he managed to find part-time jobs, his pride got in the way, leading to constant issues with colleagues, and he quit frequently. The savings set aside for Emily's future had already been spent on his affair with Jessica. Soon after our divorce, the two broke up, and Jessica apparently quit her job too. But now that's none of my concern. Struggling, Bob turned to his mother for help but was denied. He even tried to cozy up to me and Emily, saying, Please, I was wrong. Let's start over, the three of us. Of course, we rejected him, blocked his contacts, and moved to a new place with the help of his mother. Now his mother lives near us, and we continue to maintain a close relationship. I have no idea what became of Bob, and I never want to be involved with him again. Freed from the stress of the troubled relationship with his father, Emily has been thriving in high school. Now, as a senior, she got accepted into her first-choice college. Congratulations, Emily. You did an amazing job, I said. Thanks, Mom. It's all because you and Grandma supported me, Emily responded, tears streaming down her face. Since the college is commutable from our home, we plan to live together as we always have. I managed to find a job shortly after becoming a single parent and now work full-time. We have enough savings to cover Emily's tuition. I'm hoping for a bright future as we move forward, living happily with our family.
This house is really tough. My parents are both bedridden and my older brother uses a wheelchair. Should keep your voice down, they might hear you. But I need to say it out loud. Imagine being in my shoes. I come home tired from work every day, only to find a house full of sick people. It's really sad. Lately, when my husband gets home, he starts complaining right away. I'm scared his complaints will wake my in-laws and Bill, who are sleeping in the other rooms. But Brian, you just lie down and ask about dinner and a shower. You never check on your family. I've been saying this. I'm exhausted from work and can't handle everything alone. If you won't help, you can't complain. Wait, are you misunderstanding something here? Misunderstand what? Taking care of the house is your job, isn't it? Who do you think pays the bills here? Don't act like you're better than me. You couldn't survive without me. My name is Rachel and I'm 32 years old. I've been married for 6 years. I lost my parents in a car accident when I was in elementary school and grew up in foster care until I finished high school. After that, I found a job at a factory that makes electronic parts, which is part of a big company that makes electrical equipment. My husband joined the main company a year after I started working there. We met when he came to work at our factory, started dating, and later got married. Before we got married, my husband Bill worked as a freelance system engineer and lived alone in a rented apartment that he also used as his office. After we got married, we moved in with his parents. When I first met my in-laws, they welcomed me warmly, even though they knew I grew up in foster care. I had often felt looked down upon because I didn't have parents, so their kindness meant a lot to me. A few years ago, my mother-in-law fell ill and became mostly bedridden. I decided to quit my job and became a full-time homemaker to take care of her. On her better days, she taught me how to do household chores, which I wasn't very good at. Now I have 2 sons, and I always wanted to cook together with my daughter-in-law someday. I'm so glad you're here, Rachel. I often found myself thinking, if my mom were still alive, would we have spent time together in the kitchen like this? Sometimes when I made a mistake while cooking, my husband would criticize me, but my in-laws would eat quietly without complaining. She put a lot of effort into it, so just eat quietly instead of complaining. My father-in-law would scold my husband. Bill visited us only once a month, but he always had a smile on his face. He would bring sweets from famous shops and share them with me. He was always considerate and kind, like a real brother. Being part of their family made me truly happy. However, 3 years ago when my father-in-law retired, my mother-in-law got pneumonia and became mostly bedridden. She had been looking forward to traveling with her husband after his retirement, so it was devastating for her. I did everything I could to cheer her up. My father-in-law, now retired, took an active role in caring for her. Bill also came over to help out, and slowly but surely, her smile returned. The next year, my father-in-law also fell ill. He spent about 2 months in the hospital, and like my mother-in-law, became mostly bedridden. Surprisingly, my husband didn't visit him in the hospital, but Bill visited often and helped care for him, which was a huge relief. Taking care of his father without complaint is only natural, Bill would say to me. On the other hand, my husband hasn't been helping with my mother-in-law's care at all, not even when I'm at the hospital. I have a job, you know. It's not like John's laid-back situation where he can stay at home, my husband argues. It frustrates me, but with John's help, we managed while my father-in-law was in the hospital. Now, though, we have to take care of both of them. I thought it was normal to care for my in-laws, but it's disappointing that my husband isn't cooperative at all. Hey, could you pitch in a bit on your days off? I asked him. I think it would make your mom and dad happy. I don't have time for that, he replied. John doesn't even live here, but he always comes to help out. Why don't you do anything when you live here? That's because he doesn't live here. Be grateful I'm even staying here, my husband retorted. As time passed, my husband's language grew even harsher. I never realized he could be so hurtful, and my disappointment only deepened. John's visits to check on his parents and help with shopping and chores were a huge relief. I was starting to adjust to this routine, hoping we could make it work. But then John had a car accident and suffered a severe spinal injury. Now he's in a wheelchair. Why does everything bad keep happening? I lamented, feeling very upset. With John now in a wheelchair, he had to move back in with his parents. Another mouth to feed, great. Is this your fault? What are you talking about? Ever since I married you, it's been one disaster after another. Are you some kind of jinx? My husband exclaimed. His words made me wonder if there was some truth to it. Maybe I was bringing bad luck to everyone around me. Should I just disappear? But if I left, what would happen to my in-laws and John? I couldn't imagine my husband taking care of all 3 of them. Since John moved back in, my husband rarely came home. He spent long hours at work, had business dinners, played golf, or went out with friends on his days off. John is adjusting to life in a wheelchair and can manage some things on his own, but not everything. He's still the same kind-hearted person he was before the accident. Sometimes I wonder if he and my husband are really brothers. My in-laws and John have been hurt by how my husband treats me. They've even said I could leave him if I wanted to, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Then one night, my husband came home drunk and brought a woman with him. "Hey, I'm home. This is my maid," my husband slurred, introducing the woman. "Come on, she must be your wife. She actually looks like a maid though." "Who are you?" "I'm Brian's girlfriend. He said he wanted to show me what his wife looks like, so here I am." "I didn't expect such an old lady though," the woman said arrogantly. "What's your problem coming to my house? Chill out. I'd brought Brian home because he's drunk. You could at least thank me," my husband slurred in response. "Don't act so superior, maid," he added before passing out. "Don't sleep here, Brian," she said, trying to wake him up. "Oh well, I can't help it. I'll leave him to you," she shrugged and left. I was on the verge of tears, staring at my drunken husband snoring in the hallway. I wish I were just a maid. At least then I wouldn't feel so embarrassed. I could keep things professional. The next morning, I confronted my husband about bringing a woman home. "What's the big deal?" "I'm hungover this early in the morning, you know." "The woman who came back with you yesterday said she was your girlfriend." "She said that, huh? Is it true?" "Yeah, it is," my husband smirked, showing no remorse. I felt my heart grow cold as he admitted his affair so casually. "So you've been cheating?" "Well, I guess you could say that, but you're not even a woman to me anymore." "What do you mean? Why do you think I married you?" "I thought you would make a good maid. My mother was often sick and I needed someone to take care of her when necessary. That's why I married you, plain and simple." "I don't understand." "A woman without a family won't complain, no matter how I treat her. You have nowhere else to go, so you have to stay here." "Well, I didn't expect my father and brother would also need care. But whether it's one person or three, it's all the same." As my husband laughed and joked about it, I felt my strength draining away. Had he always seen me this way? The realization that he married me for these reasons brought tears to my eyes. Seeing my distress, my husband laughed again. "I'll leave you here, so make sure you take good care of them and don't complain about whatever I do outside. You don't have the right to do that. You're just a housekeeper and a caregiver," my husband declared. I was too exhausted to argue further, and leaving wasn't an option either. Like my husband pointed out, I had nowhere else to go and no one else to rely on. But more than anything, I couldn't bear to abandon my in-laws and Bill, who had shown me such kindness. They had given me a sense of belonging and warmth that I had never known before. How could I possibly leave them behind? If I divorce my husband, I'll become a stranger to them. They're the only family I have, and I can't let go of that feeling, I thought to myself. Seeing that I couldn't argue back, my husband grew even more audacious. He didn't hesitate to use foul language in front of my in-laws and Bill. "I'm so unlucky, burdened by these three. I need to blow off some steam or I can't take it anymore," he complained. From my perspective, he wasn't doing anything to help around the house or with caregiving. Instead, he did as he pleased, including having affairs. It seemed like he was enjoying himself while I struggled. "Oh, well, I'm taking my paid leave next month and going on a trip." "A trip to Hawaii with my girlfriend," my husband announced. "What? So it's a vacation with your girlfriend while I handle everything at home?" I responded incredulously. "You're technically my wife, but you're not my main woman. You're just a caregiver, so this isn't an affair trip." "It's a trip with my main woman," he explained casually. I was left speechless by his brazen declaration. There was no use arguing with him anymore, and honestly, I didn't have the energy to argue or to even feel angry anymore. I see. Do as you wish," I replied quietly. His announcement about going on a trip with his girlfriend didn't stir a hint of jealousy in me. It made me realize once again that I had no feelings left for my husband. The only reason I stayed was for my in-laws and Bill. I couldn't bear to leave them behind. That was all that mattered to me. My husband proudly shared his plans for a trip with his mistress with his family. But my in-laws and Bill looked at him with cold eyes. So the following month, my husband left on his affair trip, full of excitement. "You take care of the three of them without any trouble. That's all you're good for," he told me before leaving. Instead of feeling angry, I felt relieved that I wouldn't have to listen to his sarcastic remarks for at least a week. That night, I enjoyed a peaceful evening, and my in-laws and Bill seemed a bit happier. And then I slept well. The next morning, I woke up late and rushed downstairs. Oh no, I overslept. You must all be hungry. But when I rushed into the living room, I was stunned by what I saw. It felt surreal, as if I were still dreaming. Was this real? I had seen this scene so many times in my dreams. "What's the matter, Rachel? You look like you've seen a ghost," Mama said with a smile. "I think I need to wake up properly," I mumbled, turning to go back to my bedroom. "You're definitely awake, Rachel. This isn't a dream. We're in the middle of a strategy meeting," Mama reassured me. In the living room, there was a whiteboard set up, and Bill was standing in front of it, writing something. The board read escape plan. I couldn't believe my eyes. Why was Bill standing? Where was his wheelchair? I glanced around and noticed it folded up in a corner of the hallway. Come on, Rachel, don't just stand there. Come sit at the table, Mama urged me. Isn't this a dream? I asked, still trying to grasp the reality of the situation. Well, shall we execute the plan? Phil said with a mischievous smile, standing up. Mama also rose from her seat, ready to follow him. I nearly collapsed seeing the three of them, who were supposed to be frail and bedridden, standing before me. And then a whirlwind week unfolded. When my husband returned from his trip, he called with an excited voice. I'm at the airport now, heading home with my girlfriend. Have dinner ready. She'll be living with us from now on. Don't worry, you'll stay right here, taking care of us, playing the role of a housemaid for both me and her. Oh, I see. Do as you wish, I replied quietly. Then you're a pitiful woman, you know. You can't even complain when your husband brings another woman home. You have nowhere else to go, no family to rely on. You're stuck clinging on to me. Anyway, keep on serving me, he taunted. He seemed to be reveling in his own satisfaction, pleased that everything was going according to his plan. I remained silent. An hour later, I received a frantic call from him, a stark contrast from his earlier tone. What? What's going on? What do you mean there's a stranger in our house? Oh, they must have moved in, I replied calmly. Who are they? What are you talking about? Well, it's a rental property, isn't it? Once we moved out, it's rented to someone else. The real estate agent said he appreciated how well we kept the place clean, my husband explained. What do you mean, we moved out? Our home was a rented single-family house we moved into when we got married. It was meant for us and my in-laws, with Phil covering the rent, I clarified. Indeed, most of our living expenses were covered by Phil. Initially, my husband contributed to utilities and other costs. However, as my mother-in-law and Phil's health declined, he started withholding his contributions, arguing that his presence alone was enough support. Bill had reservations about his brother's behavior but didn't feel he could say much after moving out. Then he had a traffic accident that left him partially paralyzed initially. He believed it would be a permanent condition but began recovering surprisingly quickly, though it seemed temporary. This prompted him to move back in with his parents. Despite my in-laws actually improving in health, Bill and Mama pretended to still be frail to deceive my husband. They started planning to leave the house, with Bill's help being crucial for their scheme. This led him to return home. My in-laws had secretly purchased a retirement home with their savings and retirement funds, preparing for the future. Bill handled all the paperwork while they decided on their move. Upon discovering my husband's trip with his mistress, they decided it was time to put their plan into action. I was completely taken aback when they revealed their plan to me. To make matters better, they had already arranged a place for me to stay, they said. I apologize for keeping this from you as well, Rachel. I thought you might not be able to keep this secret because you're such an honest person. There's no way to thank you enough for everything you've done for us, my in-laws said as they held my hand and smiled. I wish I could spend more time with them, I said tearfully. You have your own life, dear. You don't have to be tied down to us. My parents are in good hands with me around, Rachel. You don't have to worry about a thing. But you know you're always welcome to visit. You mean more to us than a real daughter. We sincerely pray for your happiness. I was so overwhelmed with gratitude and happiness that I couldn't stop crying. When I told my husband about this, he was speechless. He must have turned pale, as he had his eyes on my Phil's retirement funds. He used to tell me to get hold of my Phil's bank card. Now he realized that's not going to happen. Where am I supposed to live? What about my stuff? He demanded. You didn't have much stuff. The furniture and appliances belonged to my Phil. Your parents sold your belongings, including expensive bags and watches, and gave me the money as a down payment for alimony, I explained. Down payment for what? He asked, bewildered. It's alimony for all the verbal abuse you've subjected me to. And I'll also claim additional alimony for your affair, I asserted. What? I'm not paying alimony to a caregiver, he retorted. It doesn't matter what you say. Legally, I was your wife, so I have the right to claim alimony from both you and your mistress, I replied firmly. Well, that settles it, he muttered, defeated. Wait, where are you now? Let's meet and talk, he pleaded. No way, I never want to see your face again, and I'm not telling you where I am, I replied firmly. No way. I'll send the divorce papers and alimony claim to your office, I stated resolutely. After that, he made numerous attempts to contact me, but I blocked him. Despite his reluctance to proceed with the divorce, Bill hired a lawyer, and we managed to finalize it. I received a lump sum payment for alimony. As it turned out, the woman he cheated with was married to his friend, and her furious husband confronted him at his office, exposing everything. This led to my husband losing his job. The woman was also kicked out of her house after her affair with my husband was discovered before their trip together. Initially, my husband had planned for them to return home together, but their relationship fell apart. Unable to secure a new job, he now struggles with debts from his past lavish spending and alimony payments, juggling multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet. He asked my Bill for help, but of course, he refused and brushed it off with a laugh. Later on, I found a new job thanks to a referral from Phil, and I'm truly enjoying my work every day. I still regularly meet with my in-laws, who treat me like their own daughter. I always eagerly anticipate our time together. Additionally, Bill has found happiness with a wonderful woman whom he's marrying. She's incredibly kind, and they make a perfect pair. I was deeply moved when Bill invited me to their wedding. When he said, "I would be honored if you could attend as my sister," I couldn't hold back my tears. I'm hopeful that I can maintain this wonderful relationship with my in-laws and Bill for years to come.
My name's Jennifer, and I'm 32 years old. I work in a busy city called New York, where people believe in working hard to succeed. My husband, Donnie, is 30 and works too. We got married 2 years ago. Donnie might seem a bit unreliable sometimes, but he's actually really kind. He's good at helping out with chores around the house. I'm a career-focused woman. I love my job and feel proud when I do well. In my job, if you work hard, you can move up. But there's a downside. Sometimes they might ask you to move to a different place. And if you want to have a baby, there's no rule about taking time off. Many women quit their jobs when they get married or have kids. I used to think the same way. I wanted to focus on my career and didn't plan on getting married. When Donnie asked me to marry him, I said no at first. I told him, I love my job. I'm in charge of a team now, but I want to go even higher. I can't imagine settling down or having kids. But Donnie understood. He promised we'd share the chores and wouldn't have kids. Eventually, I agreed to marry him because he was so understanding. Both Donnie and I work, so sometimes we don't split the chores exactly as we planned. But we help each other out, and I think we do pretty well. Sometimes my in-laws make annoying comments like, "You should focus more on your home than your job," or, "When are you having kids?" But it's not too bothersome because Donnie always supports me. Living with Donnie has been nice, and I've learned to enjoy being married. Then, one day, my boss, who's the head of our department, called me about a possible move to a different office. He said, "What do you think? You'd work at a branch office for a while, but you'd come back here after 2 years. You'd have a good position there, and if you do well, you'll get promoted when you come back. You might even become the first woman to lead a department. It's a pretty good opportunity, right?" Accepting or refusing this move could decide if I'll get promoted at my job. Everyone who's become a boss or higher has done a move like this. If I say no, I might stay in my current job, but I could also get moved to a less important position. Before I got married, I would have taken this chance right away, but now, being married made me feel hesitant. I told my boss, "Thank you for thinking of me. Personally, I'm interested, but since it involves moving, I want to talk to my husband first. Can I give you an answer after that?" He said, "All right, you're married. You can choose to go alone or move with your family. Talk it over. I'm hoping for a yes." When I got home, I talked to Donnie about it. I've been offered a job transfer. I might have to move to the countryside, but if I do well for 2 years, I can come back here. And if I keep doing well, I could get promoted. I want to take this offer if you're okay with it, Donnie. We can move together, or I can go alone. What do you think? At first, Donnie was surprised, but then he thought about it and said, "If you take this transfer, Jennifer, your dream could come true, right? I can't move with you because I have my job here, but don't worry about me. Go for it." With Donnie's support, I told the company I'd go for the transfer alone and started discussing the details. They agreed to pay for my moving costs and offered some good benefits, like considering my travel days as work days. So I decided to accept the transfer to the branch office. I got the official transfer order and chose to live in a company apartment, which was affordable. On moving day, the movers had already taken my stuff, and Donnie came to say goodbye at the station. "Thanks for seeing me off. I'll keep in touch and I'll try to come home as much as I can." "Yeah, I'll be waiting. But remember, even though you're working from afar, don't overdo it," Donnie said. "You too," I replied. "It's time. Take care, okay? I'm heading out," Donnie said as he left. And that's how my life as a remote worker began. I planned to come home during holidays and quieter times, but things got rocky at the branch office right after I arrived. I won't take orders from a woman. How can I trust someone new like her? One of the local employees complained. I faced resistance from the staff there. They spread rumors about me, didn't listen to my instructions, and even ignored my calls. And then things got worse when a project I was overseeing had a big mistake because one of my team members deliberately kept me out of the loop. The subordinate who was responsible looked really shocked, but as the boss, it was my job to handle it. I had to fix the problem, apologize, and not only get things back on track, but also mend relationships with my team. My boss saw how tough things were for me and gave me some advice. I've been through a transfer too, so I get it. It might not seem fair, but you can't just push your way through. It's important to communicate well, understand others, and build relationships horizontally. So I followed my boss's advice. I spent more time getting to know everyone at the branch and even joined the neighborhood association since the company's housing was part of it. Before I knew it, I was so busy that I couldn't find time for myself, let alone go back home where my husband was waiting. I kept in touch with him, but after a few months of remote work, it got hard to reach him at night. I'm working late every day because work is tough. I get tired and end up falling asleep. As my husband made excuses and I got busier with work, I didn't suspect anything and focused more on my job. Once during a slow work period on a long holiday, I decided to go back home to New York on short notice. But I couldn't reach my husband by phone or text, so I returned from my remote work without telling him. When I opened the door to our home after a long time away, something felt strange. Then a woman I didn't recognize rushed to the door, saying, "Justin, welcome back. If I knew you were coming home early, I would have prepared." We both froze, staring at each other in shock. Finally, the woman spoke up, "Sorry, but who are you?" "And who are you?" "This is my house." "Wait, what?" "I live here." After arguing and getting nowhere, we decided to check the house number outside. To my surprise, it matched the custom nameplate I had ordered. The key works, and the nameplate's right. "This is my house." "I'm going in," I insisted. "Wait, what?" "Stop." Ignoring her protests, I pushed past her and entered the house. Inside, everything had changed. The curtains, the furniture, all of it. There was a photo of my husband and the woman at a theme park. Mugs I'd never seen before, and unfamiliar toothbrushes and skincare items in the bathroom. The bed linens were different, and the wardrobe held only the woman's clothes. My husband's stuff was hidden away in a back room. As I stood there in shock, I heard the front door open. "I'm home." "Oh, Lola, did you invite a friend over?" "Justin, thank goodness you're back." This woman just barged into our house. The man the woman called Justin was definitely my husband, Donnie. Seeing me, he looked surprised. "What are you doing here?" "Donnie, why is she calling you Justin? Can you explain what's happening?" I asked him. "What do you mean? This is Justin, right?" "Justin." "Well, actually," my husband seemed flustered under our questioning. "Lola, his real name is Donnie. Isn't that what's on your driver's license? And I'm Donnie's wife, Jennifer." "That's not true. He told me he was divorced." "Donnie, you need to explain everything clearly," I insisted. "Jennifer, you were gone for so long, and I was lonely. So I thought I'd try a dating app, and that's where I met Lola," Donnie explained. "So Justin is your fake name on the dating app?" I questioned. "No, it's not like that. I was worried if my real name came out. It might cause problems, so I used a different first name but kept my last name," Donnie clarified. "And why did you lie about being divorced?" I pressed further. Lola's profile said she'd never dated a man before and was serious about finding someone for marriage. It struck a chord with me, so I lied about being divorced to win her over. "We started living together," Donnie admitted. "Why would you do something like that?" I asked, puzzled. At that moment, my husband began justifying his actions defiantly. "It's because you're always away for work. It's natural for a man to want companionship. We've been living separate lives because of your job and the long hours. I just wanted a warm home where my wife would be there with dinner when I got back." I was shocked to hear this, as I always thought my husband understood and supported my career, but that doesn't excuse what you did. What you did was wrong. If you wanted to be with someone else, you should have ended our marriage first. Why didn't you do the right thing? I cared about both of you. I never wanted to leave either of you. After everything you've done, I was bound to find out when I came back. It's unbelievable that you thought you could deceive me like this. Well, it's your fault for not keeping your promise and coming back. If you had, I wouldn't have even thought about cheating. What on earth? I've told you how hard work has been, and he still did this. I yelled, feeling a mix of anger and hurt. Our argument escalated into a shouting match, with the woman my husband cheated with standing there, looking stunned. She realized she'd been tricked by a married man into his mess. So everything was a lie. You played me for a fool. I'm leaving right now, she exclaimed. Lola, wait, it's not what you think, my husband pleaded, but it was too late. My husband tried to stop the other woman from leaving, but she brushed him off, repulsed. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. I can't believe a single word you say, she cursed before storming out, packing her things and leaving for her parents' house. Furious with my husband, I decided to take action against his betrayal. Gathering evidence, I brought it back with me when I returned to work. The first thing I did was hire a detective to look into my husband's mistress. The investigation revealed that she was the daughter of an executive at a company partnered with my husband's workplace. I had a lawyer send proof of the affair to both my husband's home and the other woman's parents. When my husband received the documents, he protested, saying he didn't want a divorce. So I prepared for a tough legal battle, even considering going to court. The other woman's family contacted my lawyer, and we arranged to meet at their office. They apologized to me, and the other woman admitted her wrongdoing. We're truly sorry. Our daughter caused you so much trouble, and we didn't even know about it. She's always been very sheltered and naive about the world. We've been trying to arrange a marriage for her, but she wanted a more free-spirited love. She met your husband without our knowledge and got carried away without knowing who he really was. She thought she found a divorced man on a dating app and wanted to move in with him. We told her to stop seeing him, but she didn't listen. She was so caught up in her fantasies that she ran away from home to be with him. Our daughter was shocked to find out she was the other woman and blames herself. She's getting therapy now. We're willing to pay you $50,000 as a settlement and hope you'll keep this matter private. The other woman and her parents shook my hand firmly. I understand your apology, but I have one condition. I'm preparing for a divorce, but my husband won't agree. If you're willing to cooperate and provide testimony if this goes to trial, then I'll accept the settlement. Okay, we'll cooperate, but we don't want our daughter to have a permanent record of this. Is there any other way we can help punish him? Well, it just so happens that his workplace is our client. In an unexpected turn of events, the woman my husband cheated with and I teamed up. We planned to give him a taste of his own medicine. His workplace was about to face a crisis because he had upset an executive at one of their client companies. And guess who would take the fall? Only my husband. Meanwhile, back at home, his parents were trying to reach out to him, unaware of the chaos. Jennifer isn't answering our calls, and she won't call back either. Is she so caught up in work that she forgot about us? When is she coming back? We miss seeing our grandchild, his mother said. Mom, you don't get it. I cheated on Jennifer while she was away, and now it looks like we're headed for divorce, my husband confessed. His mother replied, that woman who puts work before her husband is to blame. Maybe it's better if you end things with Jennifer and get back together with the woman you cheated with. My in-laws seemed to think that the other woman's family had more money than ours, so they sided with my husband and his lover, attacking me relentlessly. They called me repeatedly, but I blocked their calls. Then they started calling me at work. When I refused to talk to them, they showed up at my workplace, causing a scene. Let go of our son. It's because of you being such a career-focused woman that our son cheated. He'd be happier with his lover, so stop interfering, they demanded. What are you even saying? I want to divorce Donnie. He's the one refusing. Plus, the woman he cheated with doesn't want him back. He tricked the daughter of a big-shot executive into dating him, and they're furious. It's going to be a big mess, I explained. Once they realized their son had angered an important client, my in-laws suddenly changed sides and tried to be nice to me. We had no idea it was this serious. We must have misunderstood. We're sorry. Our son messed up, but he feels bad. You'll forgive him, right, Jennifer? They pleaded. I have to decline. You just insulted me, and now you're asking for forgiveness? Please leave, I told them firmly. When they refused to leave, I had security escort them out. Because of the scene they caused, my company decided to sue them for disrupting business. After all the drama, I finally got the compensation from my husband and got the divorce. The other woman's family also demanded compensation for their daughter's suffering and therapy costs. With the loss of his job and having to pay hefty settlements, my husband was now in deep debt. He couldn't afford to quit, and he was trapped. 2 years had passed since my assignment started. When everything settled down, I finished my assignment successfully and was getting ready to go back to the main office. My hard work paid off, and I got promoted to department manager. If I hadn't taken the assignment, I might still be stuck in a loveless marriage. But I realize now that a man like him would have cheated sooner or later, and I would have clashed with his parents anyway. I've learned that I'm better suited for work than family life, and I'm incredibly fulfilled and happy now. Hey there, I'm Stacy, and I'm 37 years old. My husband, Eric, and I were throwing a party at our house to welcome back my brother-in-law, Uncle Isaac. He had just come home after spending 5 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Yep, you heard that right, prison. But before you jump to conclusions about him or our family, let me tell you, Isaac was innocent. He got caught up in something he had nothing to do with. It took 5 long years of legal battles to prove his innocence and set him free. So you can imagine how excited we all were to have him back with us. The party was buzzing, everyone having a great time. Isaac was in the spotlight, catching up with everyone and sharing stories from his time in prison. He had a special bond with my daughter, Wendy, who used to be really close to him before all this mess happened. Laughter and lively chats echoed through the house. The smell of yummy food filled the air as we all enjoyed a feast fit for royalty. It was a special time for our family, filled with happiness and togetherness, which made my heart feel warm. Once the party ended and everyone left, we were still buzzing with excitement. We were thankful to see Isaac back with us, alive, happy, and healthy after his unfair time in prison. Life went back to normal, and it felt like the drama in our family had calmed down, at least for a little while. But sadly, that happy feeling didn't last long. A couple of days after the party, I was sitting in the living room, lost in a book, when Wendy burst in looking scared and angry. I quickly put my book down and went to her side, worried about what had happened. "Wendy, what's the matter? You look really scared. Tell me what's going on," I said, my voice filled with worry. Tears were rolling down Wendy's cheeks as she struggled to catch her breath. "Mom, I found something. A camera. Hidden in one of my plants." My heart raced and I felt a surge of fear. A hidden camera in my daughter's room, it made my blood boil. But I had to stay calm for Wendy. We hurried to her room, my mind racing with questions. And there it was, tucked away among the leaves of her favorite plant. A tiny camera, invading her privacy. How long had it been there? I felt a mix of disgust, fear, and anger rising inside me. I wasted no time and called Eric right away, my voice shaky with a mix of feelings as I shared the shocking news. "Eric, you won't believe what I just found out. There's a hidden camera in Wendy's room. We need to act fast." Eric sounded both concerned and furious. "I'm coming over, Stacy. We're not going to let this slide. Our daughter deserves her privacy, and whoever did this will pay for it." While we waited for Eric, Wendy clung to me, her tears soaking my shirt. She blamed herself for not noticing the camera sooner, but I assured her it wasn't her fault. I promised to support her through this unsettling situation. When Eric arrived, his eyes reflected our emotions. Anger barely contained beneath a calm surface. We carefully examined the camera, searching for any clues that could lead us to the person responsible. It was a betrayal of trust that hurt deeply, and we were determined to uncover the truth. The invasion of our safe space shattered the feeling of security we had worked so hard to build for our family. We needed to take action quickly, not only to protect our daughter, but also to restore our peace of mind. If there was one hidden camera in Wendy's room, who knew how many more might be lurking elsewhere in our home? "Don't worry, Wendy. We won't stop until we find out who did this," I reassured her. "Thanks, Mom. Can I please nap in the guest room?" "I don't feel comfortable in mine right now, and I'm really tired," Wendy asked. "Of course, sweetheart. You do what you need to feel safe." "I'm so sorry this happened," I replied gently. Wendy headed to the guest room, likely wanting some time alone after her privacy had been violated. I couldn't shake off the feeling of malice. Who could do something like this? We decided to review the footage, gather any evidence we could find, and involve the authorities if necessary. Nobody messes with our family like this. Though I was shaken, I found comfort in knowing Eric and I were on the same page. We sat together in the quiet of our living room, the seriousness of the situation weighing heavily on us. Our minds raced, trying to figure out who could have planted the camera in Wendy's room. As we talked it through, one name kept coming up: Isaac. I broached the subject carefully, trying to keep my voice steady. The timing is hard to ignore. The camera was likely planted during the family gathering, and who had the opportunity? Isaac. Stacy, you can't seriously think Isaac would do something like this. Yes, he's had his problems, but he's not a creep. He's my brother, for crying out loud. Eric protested. I understood Eric's reaction completely. Family bonds are strong, and suspecting a relative of such a violation feels almost unthinkable. But I couldn't ignore the clues that seemed to point towards Isaac's involvement during the family gathering. Gathering my thoughts, I spoke softly but firmly. Eric, I know it's tough to consider, but we have to face reality. Isaac spent a lot of time with Wendy at the gathering, which suggests he may have had some interest in her. Plus, he just got out of prison. People change, and their experiences can influence their actions. Our priority is to protect our daughter, even if it means questioning those closest to us. Eric looked weighed down by the situation, torn between loyalty and the evidence. Eventually, he nodded slowly, his voice filled with a mix of resignation and discomfort. I don't want to believe it, Stacy, but you're right. The timing and circumstances are hard to ignore. We have to find out the truth for Wendy's sake. The idea of confronting Isaac about the betrayal weighed heavily on our minds, but we knew it was necessary. The safety of our home and our daughter depended on it. As we brace ourselves for the tough conversation ahead, we promised to approach it with care and empathy. Finding the truth was crucial not just for our own peace, but to protect Wendy from any further harm. Days passed, and Eric struggled with conflicting feelings, loyalty to his brother versus the nagging suspicion in the back of his mind. The tension strained our relationship with Isaac and cast a shadow over our family as we grappled with uncertainty. A plan started to take shape in my mind. Risky, but it felt necessary to catch the culprit. I shared my idea with Eric, suggesting that hosting another family gathering could be the key to uncovering the truth. Think about it, Eric. Whoever planted that camera might try to retrieve it during another family event. This gathering, meant for bringing us together, could give us the chance to catch them in the act. Eric hesitated, still torn between his loyalty to his brother and the need to uncover the truth. But as I explained the urgency of our situation, he eventually agreed that we had to explore every option before getting the authorities involved. It was a tough choice, but necessary to protect our family and regain our sense of safety. I called Tina, Isaac's wife, to propose the idea of another family gathering. Hey Tina, we were thinking of having another family get-together. Are you and Isaac free to join us? Tina's response was surprisingly enthusiastic. She eagerly accepted, expressing her excitement for another gathering. It struck me as a bit odd, since she was usually more reserved, but I brushed it off, thinking she was just happy for family time. With the plans in motion, Eric and I focused on getting everything ready. Our home buzzed with anticipation and tension. We checked every corner for signs of intrusion, aiming to create a sense of normalcy while secretly preparing to catch the culprit. The stakes were high as the day of the gathering drew near, and our family's future hung in the balance. I felt a mix of nerves and determination. We were stepping into the unknown, but we were prepared to face whatever came our way to keep our daughter safe and our home secure. When the day arrived, our home filled with familiar faces once more. Excitement buzzed in the air, but underneath tension simmered. Uncle Isaac, ever charming, greeted everyone warmly, but Eric and I couldn't shake our suspicions. They loomed over us, casting a shadow on the festivities. To ensure Wendy's safety, we made the tough call to keep her away from the gathering, arranging a sleepover with a friend without revealing our concerns. With her gone, our focus sharpened, and we kept a watchful eye on anyone near her room. As the party started, laughter and chatter masked our true intentions. Eric and I played the part of hosts while secretly watching for any suspicious behavior. Our detective skills were in full swing. As the night went on, the music and dancing created a lively atmosphere, masking our true intentions. But amidst the celebration, I couldn't ignore Tina's strange behavior. She kept excusing herself, rushing off to the bathroom with an unusual urgency. My instincts kicked in, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Driven by curiosity, I decided to approach her. When Tina headed towards the bathroom once more, I followed quietly, my heart racing. But instead of going inside, she turned and entered Wendy's room. Panic surged through me. I knew I had to confront her, to uncover the truth behind her actions. Stepping forward, I called out her name, my voice tinged with both accusation and concern. "Tina, what are you doing in Wendy's room?" Startled, Tina spun around, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. But there was no escaping the truth. The tension between us thickened, heavy with unspoken accusations. "I asked you a question, Tina. What are you doing in my daughter's room?" Tina's facade cracked, tears welling in her eyes. Her voice shook as she said, "I was just looking for Wendy. I was surprised she wasn't with us for the party." "You were going through her drawers," I pointed out, my tone unwavering. Tina looked down, realizing her hands were still in the drawer she'd been searching. I can explain." "Save it." The person we least expected, the one we had staunchly defended, had betrayed our trust. The room swirled with a whirlwind of disbelief and disappointment. I motioned for Eric to join me, and he rushed over, assuming we had caught Isaac in Wendy's room. But his expression turned to shock when he saw it was Tina. "You planted that camera, didn't you? Why, Tina? Why would you do something like this?" Eric demanded, his voice laced with anger and pain. Without hesitation, Eric called Isaac over to Wendy's room, his tone firm and commanding. Isaac, sensing the urgency, quickly joined us, confusion written all over his face. As Isaac stepped into the room, his gaze fell on Tina, tears streaming down her cheeks. Before anyone could say another word, Eric quietly closed the door, shielding the rest of the party from the unfolding drama. Taking a deep breath, I steadied my voice as I began to explain everything. I recounted the shocking discovery of the camera in Wendy's room, the invasion of their privacy that had shattered their trust. My words hung heavy in the air, the truth weighing down the room. "We planned this gathering, Isaac, to catch whoever planted the camera. And to be honest, we initially suspected you." "Bro, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have doubted you, especially after everything with prison," Eric interjected, his voice filled with regret. "But it was mostly me who accused you, Isaac. I'm truly sorry. After finding Tina here, I realized you weren't involved." Isaac's brows furrowed, confusion clouding his expression as he looked between Stacy, Eric, and Tina. He turned to Tina, seeking answers. "Tina, why were you in Wendy's room? What's going on?" "We caught Tina going through Wendy's things. She's the one who planted the camera. Now that everyone's here, Tina, you need to explain yourself. Why would you do something like this?" Tina's eyes darted around the room, searching for support, but Isaac's shock mirrored the confusion in the room. He couldn't understand why Tina would do something so invasive, especially to her own family. Okay, you got me. Yes, I planted the camera in Wendy's room. I was just coming to take it back." "We already know that. We caught you. We want to know why," Eric pressed. "Because I'm jealous, okay," Tina blurted out. Tina's confession hung heavy in the air, exposing her jealousy for all to see. She admitted, with a mix of shame and frustration, that her actions were driven by envy towards Wendy. She had noticed Isaac and Wendy talking a lot during the last family gathering, and it sparked jealousy within her. She questioned what made Wendy so special, what drew Isaac's attention and affection towards her. Isaac felt the need to defend himself, his voice tinged with defensiveness and genuine concern. "Tina, you know I care about Wendy, but not in a weird way. Being her uncle is important to me. I was just checking on her, making sure she was okay. It was out of love and family concern, nothing strange." "But why were you always praising Wendy? It made me wonder what was so great about her," Tina countered, her jealousy still evident. "So you're upset because I'm proud of being an uncle?" "Tina, is there something wrong with being proud of my niece? I have every right to support and appreciate Wendy. It's not about playing favorites, it's just genuine love for family." I didn't expect you to react like this. Trying to navigate the emotions in the room, I turned to Tina. "What were you hoping to find by planting the camera? What did you think you'd uncover?" "I just wanted to see how Wendy lives, you know. Maybe if I understood her better and acted like her, I could get the same attention from you, Isaac. I wanted to feel valued like she is." "You're acting crazy, Tina. Jealous of a teenager. That's messed up," Isaac snapped, his frustration evident. After an awkward silence that could rival a library, Eric decided to end the party. "Good call, I agreed. The last thing we need is to keep partying after discovering Tina's true colors. The resident creep of the year. Once the relatives were gone, it was just Eric and me left to deal with the fallout of Tina's actions. And let me tell you, it wasn't pretty. I unleashed a verbal storm on Tina, making a sailor blush. I mean, who does that? Who plants a camera in their niece's room? Sick, that's who. Isaac looked lost, disappointment written all over his face. I guess he couldn't believe what his wife had done. Can't say I blame him. I'd be equally stunned if my partner turned out to be a lunatic. As the dust settled and our emotions ran dry, Eric and I found ourselves sitting in our once cheerful home, now tainted by one family member's sinister acts. The next day, when Wendy returned, it fell to me to break the news to expose the twisted truth. Tears filled Wendy's eyes as I recounted the violation of her privacy. The poor girl, innocent and unsuspecting, couldn't believe someone in our own family could do something so awful. Mom, I never imagined this could happen, especially from Tina. Seriously. Wendy's disbelief mirrored my own. I shook my head, struggling to comprehend it myself. I know it's hard to believe. Tina's really crossed a line. With Wendy in my arms, her tears staining my shoulder, I made her a promise. We were going to fight back. Pressing charges was just the beginning. Tina needed a reality check, and we were ready to give it to her. Her tearful eyes met mine, seeking reassurance. But Mom, how is Uncle Isaac doing? I sighed, the weight of our shattered family hanging heavily in the air. Honestly, he's struggling. It's hard for him to celebrate his freedom knowing he's married to someone who's acted so terribly. So, are they getting a divorce? I don't know, sweetheart. I hate what she's done to us. Me too. But right now, our priority is your safety. We're getting a restraining order against Tina so she won't come near you again. We're pressing charges and getting a restraining order against Tina, the one with the camera, and the bond between Isaac and our family, it's strained, shattered by this betrayal. There's an awkward silence between us, a reminder of how far jealousy can go, but we're determined to rebuild and find comfort in those who truly care. The road ahead might be tough, but we're ready to face it. Our family's love will help us through. Hello, my name is Madison, and I'm 34 years old. When I was growing up, my biggest dream was to be a journalist or work with magazines. I loved writing and was good at keeping up with trends. So it wasn't surprising that I decided to study journalism and media in college. After I graduated, I worked for several companies, but none of them were the big famous ones. I didn't mind because I was doing what I had always dreamed of. Eventually, I got a job at a pretty big company and felt like I had finally made it. A few years after I graduated college, when I was about 28, I met my husband, Scott. Scott's family was pretty wealthy and had their own business. I'm mentioning this because his mother, Tricia, always disliked me and insulted me. She thought I wasn't good enough for him and that I shouldn't have married him. Scott and I dated for about 3 years before we decided to get married. As I mentioned, Scott's mom, Tricia, didn't like me. She always put me down and made fun of me for working at a magazine and having a journalism degree. At first, her behavior really hurt me because no one should be treated like that. But for some reason, Tricia thought it was okay to treat me that way. Scott always defended me against his mother. His dad, Fred, also stood up for me whenever he heard Tricia's remarks. I was thankful for both of them. As time went on, I started to get used to Tricia's insults. Scott even suggested that we limit contact with her. But I didn't agree. Scott worked with his dad, and if he stopped talking to his mom, it could make things awkward for Fred. Fred was a wonderful person, and I didn't want to put him in a tough spot. I also didn't want Scott to cut off his family because of me. I learned to deal with it mostly because we only saw Tricia twice a month at most. But things changed when Fred had to go overseas for a business project. Tricia didn't want to be alone, so Scott and I agreed to let her stay with us until Fred returned. I had a bad feeling about it, but I believed that family should always come first. Living with Tricia was really tough. She constantly nitpicked and criticized everything I did, and the insults never seemed to stop. But I could handle all of that as long as she didn't actually harm me. However, everything changed during one week that turned out to be really difficult. I had a major presentation coming up at work. We were redesigning a section of our magazine, and I was responsible for making it great. This presentation was crucial because it would determine if I got a promotion, but Tricia didn't understand why it was so important. I don't think knowing would have changed her opinion of me anyway. Since Trisha was staying with us, she saw how stressed I was about it. The night before my big presentation, I was talking to Scott about how nervous I felt when she overheard us. She walked into the living room and decided to share her thoughts. This is a big deal. All the top bosses will be watching me. I can't imagine how scary this must be for you. I'm glad you had it easier with your business, but this is such a different game. I'm so scared of messing everything up. Don't say that. You'll do great. I wish I could believe that. I just feel so unsure of everything. What if I mess up the presentation? I couldn't help but overhear you both talking. Mom, we're having a private conversation. Well, Madison, I just wanted to say that you have nothing to worry about. You probably don't have the skills for this, so you'll probably do badly tomorrow. Excuse me? Just treat it as a chance to quit your job and be a housewife. Then maybe you'll be good enough for my son. I can't believe he married a journalist. Mom, you're crossing a line. Leave. You know what? I don't have time for your nonsense, Trisha. I have bigger things to worry about than your opinion of me and my relationship with your son. How dare you talk to me like that? So it's fine for you to talk to me that way, but not the other way around. Scott, say something. Your wife is disrespecting your mother. She's just standing up for herself. I don't see anything wrong with it. She's manipulating you. Look at how easily you can turn your back on family. Madison will regret this. I was furious at Trisha for barging into Scott's and my conversation and insulting me so blatantly. Scott tried to apologize for his mother's behavior, but I stopped him. He wasn't responsible for her hurtful words. After that, we decided to call it a night and went to sleep. I was too focused on everything else to even think about Trisha's threat towards me. I figured she would just continue tormenting me, which honestly, I didn't care about at that moment. Dealing with her could wait until after my presentation. The next day, I hurried into work with my laptop, ready for my presentation. But when I opened it, I realized something was terribly wrong. All the files on my desktop were gone, and my laptop had been reset. I started to panic. I had emailed the presentation to myself, so I tried to calm down. But when I logged into my email, I saw that all my emails were deleted, even from the trash. My heart sank and tears filled my eyes. I felt an overwhelming fear. I had to explain everything to my boss, who was not happy. He yelled at me for a while before telling me not to bother with the presentation because he had someone else do it in case I messed up. I knew then that any chance for me to advance in the company was gone. I couldn't believe this was happening. I rushed home in tears. Scott hadn't left for work yet, and when he saw me, he took the day off to be with me. He held me as I cried, and when I calmed down a bit, he asked me what happened. What's wrong, honey? Did the presentation not go well? There was no presentation, at least not one that I gave. Huh? What do you mean? You put so much effort into preparing for it. You hardly slept those past few days because you were working so hard. I know, but when I got there, I opened my laptop and found out that everything had been deleted. What? How did that happen? I don't know. It was really embarrassing and humiliating to have to explain it to my boss. Wait, did you not back it up somewhere else? Yeah, I emailed it to myself, but even my inbox and trash were emptied. Oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened. What did your boss say? He yelled at me a lot, called me unprofessional and lazy. He had someone else do the presentation. But you still have your job, right? Yeah, but I'm stuck in this position. I can't move up or get promoted. I'm done here. Don't worry, honey. You'll find a better job. I'll be here for you through it all. Just keep working here until you're ready to leave. Yeah, I'll give my notice now. I can't believe I worked so hard for this, and just when I was close, it slipped away. I felt really down after that. I take pride in doing well on my projects, so what happened was really tough for me. It was traumatic, to say the least. I wasn't given any more important work at my job. I held off on quitting, but after another week, I knew it was time. I handed in my notice and waited for my time to be up. Through it all, Trisha seemed strangely happy. She saw me crying once and made remarks about how she knew I would fail. At first, I was mad at her, but then I started thinking about her behavior. Maybe she was happy because she thought I would finally become a housewife, or maybe she was happy because she had something to do with my career falling apart. I can't quite explain it, But I had this gut feeling that Trisha had something to do with my laptop troubles. I wanted to talk to Scott about it, but I needed evidence first. So I decided to set up a hidden camera in the office to catch Trisha in the act. I ordered a camera disguised as a smoke detector and installed it on the ceiling. I connected it to my phone and got ready to implement my plan. The next step was to somehow let Trisha know about my upcoming presentation. That wasn't too hard. I just paced around the office looking worried. Scott was still at work, unaware of what I was doing. Trisha noticed my anxious behavior and asked what was going on. "What's wrong? Are you stressed about another project?" "I need to tell someone. Since you asked, I've been given another chance to present my work, and it could lead to a raise." "Oh, really?" "Yeah, and I'm really nervous because this is my last chance to get things right, and I have to do it well." "Why aren't you telling Scott? Is it because you're embarrassed about your job?" "No, it's because I don't want to disappoint him again. Just keep it between us, okay? I'm not promising anything, but it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow." "Why do you always want me to fail?" "I just think you'd be better off as a housewife. It's less embarrassing than what you're doing now." "I don't have time for this, and I don't care what you think. Please leave me alone so I can practice my presentation before Scott gets home." Trisha left, but not before giving my laptop a look and smirking at me. I had a feeling something was up. I stayed in the office a little longer, only leaving when Scott came home. Trisha didn't mention my presentation, but she kept smirking at me during dinner. After we went to bed, I checked the footage from the hidden camera on my phone, keeping an eye out for any movement. Scott and I watched a few episodes of our favorite TV series as usual. There wasn't any action until midnight when Trisha entered the office. I quickly showed Scott what was happening on my phone. He seemed puzzled at first, but then he saw Trisha messing with my laptop until it shut off and restarted. Scott looked at me shocked. I explained what I had done, and he was furious with Trisha. Trisha was still in the office, snooping through my files. Scott got up and stormed into the office. He flung the door open, and Trisha looked startled when she saw him. Scott tried to stay calm and asked her what she was doing. "What are you doing in here, Mom?" "Oh, nothing." "Really? Then why is Madison's laptop still open? Are you accusing me of going through her stuff?" "I think you did more than that, Mom. Firstly, I came in here because I thought this room needed tidying up. And secondly, you know your wife isn't forgetful. She wouldn't leave her laptop open. You wanted to clean the office at midnight, and don't talk about Madison like that. Don't talk to me like that. I'm still your mother." "Yeah, my mother who loves to hurt and sabotage my wife." "What are you saying?" "We caught you on camera resetting Madison's laptop. You were spying on me?" "No, we just wanted to make sure that what happened to Madison wouldn't happen again." "That's disgusting. How could you film me without my consent?" "I didn't put cameras in your room. I put one in my office, and you went in there without my permission. And even if it was wrong, it's nothing compared to what you did to Madison. I want you out of our house tomorrow." "But I'll be all alone," Trisha protested. "I don't care. I don't want to talk to you." The next morning, Trisha tried to delay things by helping with breakfast and washing dishes, but Scott wasn't having it. As soon as she finished, Scott came down with her bags and told her he'd packed for her and ordered her an Uber. Trisha pleaded with him to let her stay, even crying, which was unusual for her as she usually made others cry. Scott ignored her and went to our room. Trisha turned to me and started yelling, blaming me for setting her up. I told her if anyone should be yelling, it's me. She's lucky I haven't shared the footage with her friends and family. If they knew what she did to me, she'd lose them all. That shut her up pretty quickly. After Trisha left, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. Though I was still upset about my job situation, I knew I could bounce back and do even better. Scott was my biggest support throughout everything. Once my notice period ended, I took some time off to rest and figure out my next steps. Over the next few months, I took courses in different areas of my field. I knew if I focused on a specific niche and found the right job, I could achieve a lot more. I didn't want to expose Trisha, but after years of her putting me down, I wanted to show her what I was capable of. I wanted to reach heights even she hadn't seen. With Scott's help, I got recommendations in various places. Being wealthy also meant having many connections, which was a huge advantage. With my experience and Scott's support, I landed the role of chief editor at a major magazine known worldwide. The work was tough, but it was worth it. Somewhere along the journey to becoming chief editor, I forgot about my desire to show Trisha what I was capable of. In fact, we hadn't had any contact with her during those months. I knew Scott still spoke with his father because they worked together, but Scott hadn't heard much from or about his mother. His father, Fred, said she was upset with us about something but wouldn't say what. At least Trisha took my warning seriously. But I knew I have to see her eventually, and it turned out my company was throwing a huge party with lots of big names invited, including Trisha and Fred. Scott and I dressed our best because, for the first time, we were both important figures. When we arrived, Trisha and Fred spotted us and waved us over. We greeted them, and Trisha gave me a once-over before smirking. "Look at you trying to fit in," she sneered. "Trisha, ignore her, Madison. You look lovely, as always," Fred said kindly. "Thanks, Fred. How have you been?" "Yeah, how's unemployment treating you?" Trisha interjected. "Wait, you're unemployed?" Fred asked, surprised. "Oh yeah, she messed up at her job, and they let her go. I've always said she's not good enough for our son." "Look at her, she can't even keep a job," Trisha mocked. "That's enough, Mom," Scott said sternly. "Stop siding with her. It's bad enough having to see her everywhere. We wouldn't have to if you just left her like I said," Trisha insisted. "Okay, that's enough. Either you stop talking or I'm leaving," Scott warned. "But Madison, sweetie, if you need a job, let me know. It would be great to work with you," Fred offered sincerely. "That's really kind of you, Fred, but I can't accept the offer," I replied. "Of course not. I told you she's lazy and incompetent," Trisha muttered. Just then, my name was called, and people started cheering. I looked towards the small stage, and the CEO was there, waving and motioning for me to come up. I turned to Fred and Trisha, excusing myself. Fred looked amused, but Trisha seemed confused and angry. The CEO gave a speech, praising my work in the company and my ability to innovate and bring new ideas to the magazine. The audience cheered loudly, asking for a speech. I thanked Scott for his support and all my colleagues who helped make the magazine what it is. I ended by thanking a one person who doubted me because their negativity pushed me to be better. As I walked off the stage, everyone stopped me to congratulate me and ask about the unnamed critic, but I kept that to myself. I made my way over to the table where Fred, Trisha, and Scott were seated. Scott hugged me tightly, congratulating me, and Fred stood up to hug me too. Trisha glared at me. "Oh, Madison, this is amazing. I can see why you wouldn't want to work with us," Fred said. "Thanks, Fred. Although I'll admit, if you'd offered me the job about 6 months ago, I might have taken it." "You should have. At least then you'd be paid more," Trisha snorted. "Paid more? I could never put a price on this," Fred replied. "Right, she's not worth all that money," Trisha scoffed. "No, I mean I couldn't match what she's earning right now." "What do you mean?" Trisha asked, confused. "Do you want me to tell her, Madison? It might come off as boasting if I say it," Fred offered. "Madison makes at least 5 times more than I do in her current position," Fred revealed. "Here? How? Oh yeah, she must be making way more than Scott or I could ever imagine," Trisha exclaimed. "That can't be right. You must be mistaken," Trisha insisted. "He's not mistaken, Mom. I really did mean it when I thanked you. You've been nothing but a bully to me, and I hope seeing me more successful than anyone in your family stings. Anyway, I have other people to talk to. Excuse us, Trisha. Fred, feel free to join us anytime." "Goodbye," I said as Scott and I left a stunned Trisha at the table. Fred laughed and raised his drink to me as Scott and I walked away. I'd never felt more alive and satisfied. It was an incredible accomplishment, and I'm grateful to Scott for his support. Thanks for listening.